Hey guys! Tonight we journey back through time to a period when ancient Indians didn't have the luxury of watches or clocks like we do. Instead, they relied on the simplest yet most brilliant tools, shadows and the stars, to measure time. Imagine a world where the sun's position in the sky and the phases of the moon were the clockwork that guided daily life. A reality check for you. You probably won't survive this, at least not without appreciating the incredible ingenuity of the people who calculated time without gadgets. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments below. I always find it fascinating to see where these ancient histories reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, imagine standing in ancient India, feeling the warmth of the sun on your face. Time was something that these people observed not on clocks, but through the very elements around them, the sun, the moon, and the stars. The first way ancient Indians calculated time was through shadows, a natural phenomenon that they understood in remarkable detail. Shadows, of course, are just the absence of light, but they became something much more in the hands of the ancient astronomers and timekeepers of India. The movement of shadows was observed, measured, and recorded, allowing people to divide the day into smaller, meaningful intervals. Historians still argue whether these time measurements were purely practical, designed for agricultural or social needs, or if they were linked with spiritual or philosophical beliefs. Some argue that these early methods of timekeeping were deeply connected with the Indian understanding of the cosmos and the cycles of nature, while others believe the emphasis was on practical use in daily life. Either way, these methods were not only effective, but played a central role in the cultural and religious life of the people. The first tool used by ancient Indians to measure time was probably as simple as the shadow of a tree. As the sun rose and set, the shadow of an object, like a tree, would move. By observing the length and position of this shadow throughout the day, ancient Indians were able to divide the day into basic phases. A long shadow in the morning and evening indicated the start and end of the day. Shorter shadows in the middle of the day marked noon, when the sun was at its highest point in the sky. This division of the day, based on the position of the sun, was the earliest form of timekeeping in India, much like how our clocks measure the hours, but on a far simpler, natural scale. These early observations led to the development of more sophisticated timekeeping devices over time, and one of the first was the sundial. Sundials were essentially an extension of the basic principle of shadow observation. They consisted of a stick, or gnomon, which cast a shadow over a flat surface, marked with lines indicating time. The most common sundials in ancient India were often circular, with markings corresponding to the movement of the sun throughout the day. These sundials were one of the first practical tools used to divide the day into measurable units, like hours or even smaller intervals. But here's the quirky tidbit. While the sundial worked fine during the day, it wasn't much use at night. Right? You can imagine the frustration of the ancient timekeepers staring at their sundial as the evening approached, watching the shadow disappear. Historians still debate how ancient Indians solved this problem. Some believe they used water clocks, which could be used at any time of day or night. These simple, yet effective devices involved water dripping at a consistent rate, with the amount of water collected marking the passage of time. In any case, it's clear that time for ancient Indians wasn't just a matter of measuring hours on a clock. Time was linked to the natural cycles of the earth and the heavens, deeply tied to the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. The cosmic understanding of time was pervasive, shaping not just how the ancient Indians measured the passing hours, but how they viewed their place in the world. The rhythms of the day, the seasons, and even the cosmic cycles were not merely practical guides. They were spiritual ones too. The philosophy and cosmology of ancient India saw time as not just linear, but cyclic, where life, death, and rebirth flowed in harmony with the natural world. And speaking of cycles, historians still argue whether this cyclical view of time originated in India or was shared with other early civilizations, like those in Mesopotamia or Egypt. Some argue that the Indian view was uniquely tied to its spiritual practices, while others see it as part of a broader, global understanding of the universe. Whichever way the idea evolved, it's clear that the ancient Indians were ahead of their time in their understanding of time, linking it to the cycles of nature and the heavens in a way that was both practical and deeply philosophical. The importance of understanding time extended beyond just dividing the day. The ancient Indian calendar, based on the lunar cycle, was vital for agriculture, rituals, and festivals, but that's a story for another time. For now, as the day passes into night, we continue to see how these ancient people used the shadows and the sun not only as practical tools to measure time, but as ways to connect to the world around them. What may have started as simple observations of the changing shadows became a profound system of understanding the world, a system we still honor today, even if we've got clocks to do the heavy lifting now. As the night falls deeper, it's hard not to think about the genius of the ancient Indian methods of timekeeping. Without any modern technology, the people of India relied on what they could see, the shadows and the sun, to keep track of their days. Now, imagine standing outside as the sun rises, and you see the first rays stretch across the earth, casting long shadows that slowly shorten as the day progresses. This simple observation was the very foundation of how ancient Indians would measure time. The shadows of the morning told them when to rise. The midday sun told them when it was time for work, and the lengthening shadows of the evening told them it was time to rest. In a way, the shadows were the first clocks, marking time long before the mechanical watches we depend on today. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means I can continue uncovering these fascinating stories for you. Also, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments below. It's always intriguing to see where in the world these ancient practices resonate. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's now turn our attention to shadows, the most basic yet powerful way the ancient Indians used to track time. The shadows they observed didn't just tell them about the passing of time. They were an intimate connection to the natural world. It's amazing to think that something as simple as a shadow can be so precise, yet the ancients knew that it was the key to understanding time. As the day moved forward, the shadow lengthened, and they divided the day into various parts based on this shadow movement. One of the most remarkable aspects of these early methods was how well they adapted to the natural world around them. The shadows didn't just show time, they also showed changes in the seasons. Winter brought shorter days and longer nights, and the shadows grew long quickly, signaling a change in how time was experienced. Summer, on the other hand, had longer days, and the shadows seemed to barely move. So, every day became a dance between sunlight and shadow, creating a rhythm that ancient Indians could rely on to tell them when it was time to do everything, from farming to preparing for festivals to religious rituals. Now, you're probably wondering how exactly these ancient people went from observing shadows to actually calculating time. Well, they didn't just rely on intuition. The Indian subcontinent was home to a long tradition of astronomy and mathematics. And as time passed, the ancient Indians refined their techniques. The most iconic example is the sundial. This was the next step in advancing the basic concept of measuring time with shadows. Sundials were simple, yet remarkably accurate. Imagine the gnomon, a stick or rod, standing tall, casting its shadow on a flat surface divided into precise hours. as the sun moved across the sky. The shadow of the gnomon would fall on different parts of the sundial, indicating time. Historians still argue about the origins of the sundial. Some believe it was an invention of the Greeks, while others suggest that ancient India had already developed these tools much earlier. The question is whether the sundial was passed down to other civilizations, or whether these cultures arrived at similar solutions independently. No matter its exact origin, what's clear is that the Indian use of sundials was a game changer. It allowed people to measure time with precision that would have been unimaginable to earlier civilizations. The beauty of the sundial wasn't just in its accuracy, it was that it could be used anywhere the sun was shining. It was a portable timekeeper, allowing people to keep track of hours without any fancy gadgets. But here's the quirky detail. Sundials could only tell time when the sun was shining, in cloudy weather or at night. They were useless. This is where the water clock, another invention of ancient India, came in. Historians still argue whether the water clock came about as a direct response to the limitations of the sundial, or whether it was an independent invention. Some believe that the water clock, also known as a clepsydra, was used in conjunction with the sundial to measure time at night or on cloudy days. Others suggest it was the main alternative to the sundial, especially in temples and ritualistic settings. Where the need to measure time was crucial, the water clock worked by letting water drip at a consistent rate from one container to another. And as the water level rose or fell, it indicated the passage of time. Even with the water clock's usefulness, the sundial still remained the most common method of measuring time in ancient India, especially during the day. Ancient Indian astronomers and mathematicians, often Brahmins, would use sundials in temples, at palaces, and even in public spaces to measure time, ensuring that everything from rituals to work to festivals happened at the right time. But what about the night, when shadows disappeared? How did ancient Indians measure the hours when the stars took over the sky? This is where the stars and moon came into play. The stars, constantly shifting across the night sky, provided a cosmic clock that guided the ancient Indians through the night hours. While sundials had governed the day, the movement of the stars and the moon's phases were the time markers for the night. It's fascinating to think about how ancient timekeeping in India didn't just depend on tools, but also relied on a deep connection to the natural world. Whether through shadows, water clocks, or the movement of celestial bodies, ancient Indians were able to track the passing of time with remarkable precision. Long before mechanical clocks were even conceived, their methods didn't just define time, they defined their relationship to the cosmos, the seasons, and even spirituality. As you drift further into this journey, it's easy to forget just how far back these methods of timekeeping reach. The ancient Indians, without any modern tools or machines, relied on the most basic elements: sunlight, shadows, and the stars. Imagine them sitting in the shade of a tree during midday, watching the shadows grow shorter and shorter as the sun climbs higher in the sky. To us, it might seem simple, but to them, this natural progression was time itself. They didn't need fancy watches or digital clocks to guide their lives. They had the sky, the sun, and the stars, and they knew how to use them. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Every time you do, it helps me share more of these fascinating histories with you. And don't forget to leave your location and local time in the comments. It's always a treat to know where in the world people are tuning in. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, let's move beyond the simple sundials and explore a deeper level of astronomical timekeeping that ancient Indians developed over centuries. While shadows and sundials helped measure the day, those basic intervals from morning to evening, the next step in the evolution of Indian timekeeping brought in the stars and celestial bodies. The ancient Indians didn't just observe the sun's path. They looked to the heavens, using the stars and planets to chart time on an even grander scale. Historians still argue about how exactly the ancient Indians conceptualized the relationship between time and the cosmos. Was time primarily a spiritual force? Or did practical needs like agriculture and trade drive the sophisticated timekeeping systems? It's likely that both aspects were intertwined. The ancient Indian calendar, built on cycles of the moon and the movement of the stars, was designed to organize both the practical and spiritual aspects of life. From the start of the farming season to the timing of religious festivals, one of the most impressive tools that ancient Indians developed to track time was their lunar calendar. Unlike the solar-based calendars that we commonly use today, the ancient Indian calendar was deeply connected to the moon's phases. The full moon and the new moon were the main reference points that structured the year. The lunar year, though, was not perfectly synchronized with the solar year, so adjustments were made by inserting an extra month called a leap month every couple of years. This method, known as the lunisolar calendar, was highly effective for agriculture and religious rituals, which required specific timing related to moons and seasons. The moon was a huge factor in Indian timekeeping because it allowed for a clear, cyclical structure of time. The moon's phases, from waxing to waning, helped define the passage of time over days and months. The ancient Indian calendar was marked by both solar months and lunar months, which reflected the sun and the moon's ever-changing movements across the sky. It's a system that's far more intricate than simply counting days or marking dates. It's about alignment with cosmic rhythms, but it wasn't just about calculating the year. It was about understanding the cosmic cycle that governed the universe. The ancient Indians didn't just observe the stars, they mapped them. Using an early form of astrology known as Jyotisha, Indian astronomers could predict events and guide agricultural decisions, religious festivals, and even personal matters like marriage. By tracking the positions of planets and stars, they could interpret the cosmic energies at work during any given time. Historians still debate whether Jyotisha was purely scientific or if it had a spiritual element attached to it. Was it a mere system of astronomy, or did it evolve into a philosophical practice deeply intertwined with spirituality? Some scholars suggest it was one of the earliest forms of astrological science, while others propose it was part of a holistic system that blended science with spiritual beliefs. What's clear is that the ancient Indian understanding of time went beyond mere measurements. It was about understanding the cosmic order. The fascinating thing about the ancient Indians' use of stars in their timekeeping is that they didn't just rely on visible stars, they also relied on the movement of planets and constellations to mark specific times of the year. Certain constellations were associated with specific times of year, and these movements acted as time markers for agricultural cycles. Planetary movements were recorded to predict everything from the start of the monsoon season to the best times to plant crops. In many ways, the stars became not just markers of time, but indicators of when to act and when to wait. To understand the full extent of this, consider the nakshatras, the lunar constellations in Indian astronomy. These constellations weren't just used for mapping the night sky. They were used to determine the best times for rituals and activities. The position of the moon relative to these nakshatras helped define the best times for everything, from praying to planting crops. This idea of using the stars to dictate the rhythm of life, guiding everything from farming to spiritual practices, was at the core of ancient Indian timekeeping. Historians are still uncertain whether nakshatras were purely scientific observations or whether their spiritual and religious importance grew over time. What we do know is that the ancient Indians' use of stars for measuring time was far from simplistic. It was a sophisticated system, reflecting not only their knowledge of the natural world, but also their deep spiritual connection to the universe. As the moon rises tonight, take a moment to reflect on how time is still shaped by these ancient cycles. Even today, while we may rely on watches and smartphones, the shadow of the past still influences how we see the world. The ancient Indian methods of calculating time were not just tools of practicality. They were a window into a world where nature, the cosmos, and life were intricately connected. As you settle deeper into the night, the rhythmic ticking of time becomes less about the minutes and seconds passing by and more about the eternal cycles of nature. You can almost imagine the ancient Indians looking up at the night sky, watching the stars move in patterns, carefully observing the moon's phases as they marked the passage of time. Every phase of the moon had a role, a purpose, guiding not just the rhythms of nature, but the very fabric of society itself. The sun may have been the day's master, but the moon ruled the night, weaving a cosmic calendar that influenced everything from planting crops to performing rituals. You can feel the deep connection they had to their surroundings, as though time wasn't just something to measure, but something to live by. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support allows me to continue unraveling these ancient mysteries and sharing them with you. And while you're at it, leave your location and the current time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world these ancient stories are being enjoyed. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's continue with our journey into ancient Indian timekeeping. The most intuitive and fascinating part of their time-tracking methods was how they linked natural phenomena to the passage of time. While sundials and shadows helped define the hours of the day, the ancient Indians needed something more, a system that could measure not just hours, but also the larger units of time. Days, months, and years. Enter the moon. Its waxing and waning cycles were no accident in ancient Indian timekeeping. They were deliberate markers of time, carefully tracked and recorded for everything from agriculture to religious rituals. Historians still argue about the origins of the Indian lunar calendar. Some believe that it was a purely astronomical invention, born out of the necessity to track seasons and the agricultural needs of the community, while others argue that it was spiritually motivated, deeply intertwined with Vedic traditions. Either way, the lunar calendar played a key role in guiding ancient Indian life. The full moon, for instance, wasn't just an astronomical event. It was a marker of the beginning and end of specific festivals and rituals. In the same way, the new moon marked the time to start new projects or engage in spiritual practices. The moon was the clock that guided the spiritual and practical aspects of life. Let's step further into the mysteries of the Indian lunar system. This calendar, based on the moon's 5-day cycle, had a profound impact on how ancient Indians conceptualized time. The lunar months were aligned with the phases of the moon, and each month had specific rituals and activities associated with it. The start of the lunar month was not a random event. It was determined by the precise positioning of the moon. The dark of the moon, or the new moon, was often considered a time of rest and reflection, a period where the spiritual and practical worlds could sync up. The fact that ancient Indians could accurately track the moon's cycles was a monumental feat. While modern astronomers use high-tech computers to predict lunar phases, the ancient Indians could calculate the lunar cycle by observing the sky, making complex calculations based on their observations. Astronomical texts, like the Surya Siddhanta, laid out detailed methods for calculating lunar and solar cycles, ensuring that the system of timekeeping was precise and in sync with nature. These astronomical calculations didn't just tell the time, they helped predict events, from eclipses to seasonal changes that could impact agriculture. Historians still argue whether these calculations were entirely scientific, or whether they were deeply embedded in the spiritual and religious beliefs of ancient Indian society. Did these astronomers view the celestial bodies as scientific phenomena, or did they see them as divine markers? Some scholars suggest that ancient Indian astronomy was the birth of modern science, while others believe that it was closely tied to Vedic and cosmic principles, a way to understand the universe not just mathematically, but also spiritually. Regardless of the origins, it's clear that Indian astronomy had a holistic quality, one that blended practical knowledge with cosmic understanding. This intertwining of astronomy and spirituality was particularly apparent in how the lunar calendar was used for religious rituals and festivals. Many important festivals in India, such as Diwali or Holi, are tied directly to the phases of the moon, with specific days chosen to coincide with cosmic alignments. In this way, time was not just a practical concern, it was sacred. By aligning their lives with the cycles of the moon, ancient Indians were not only marking the passage of time, they were aligning themselves with the universe. And this connection to the universe was reflected in the architecture of ancient Indian temples, which were often built with an incredible astronomical precision. Many temples were aligned with celestial events, such as the solstices and equinoxes, demonstrating the sophistication of Indian timekeeping. The temples were not just religious structures, they were timepieces in themselves, marking the rhythms of the cosmos in stone. Some scholars even suggest that the layout of ancient Indian cities was based on astronomical principles, further reinforcing the connection between time, space, and cosmic order. Historians continue to explore how astronomy and religion shaped one another in ancient India. Was the Indian understanding of time purely scientific, or was it an expression of spiritual wisdom? Did the stars, the planets, and the moon influence their daily life? Or was it the other way around? Whatever the answer, what is clear is that time was much more than something to be measured. It was something to be experienced, understood, and celebrated. And this celebration of time, through the moon's phases and the stars, is a legacy that still endures in India today. As the world around you deepens into the quiet of the night, the concept of time seems to stretch beyond mere hours and minutes, becoming something almost ethereal. The ancient Indians didn't just track the passage of time, they wove it into the very fabric of their daily lives. Time was not a fixed, mechanical thing to them. It was fluid, governed by the celestial bodies, the rhythms of the seasons, and the eternal dance between day and night. This idea might seem distant to us, who rely on clocks and smartphones to define our days, but the ancient Indian approach to time was intimately tied to the natural world and the cosmic forces that influenced their lives. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support ensures these ancient stories continue to reach new ears. And, as always, feel free to share your location and time in the comments. It's a nice reminder that the passage of time transcends all borders. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's go back to the fundamentals of ancient Indian timekeeping. While the shadows and the sun provided a simple, everyday way to measure time, the moon was at the heart of much deeper astronomical observations. Lunar cycles were seen as a mirror of the life cycles: birth, death, and rebirth, each phase of the moon corresponding to different stages of human existence. The ancient Indian calendar had months defined by the moon's phases, and these were essential for understanding time in both the practical and spiritual realms. The key to this system was the synodic month, which is about 5 days long, aligning perfectly with the moon's cycle. The month was broken into two halves: the waxing phase from new moon to full moon, and the waning phase from full moon to new moon. These phases didn't just mark the passage of time, they were tied to agricultural cycles, rituals, and festivals. The moon's influence was everywhere in ancient India. It governed the timing of crops, the phases of life, and even the astrological predictions of one's destiny. The use of the lunar calendar also tied the passage of time to the spiritual world, where the moon's phases were considered powerful and symbolic. For instance, during the full moon, it was believed that spiritual energy was at its peak, making it an ideal time for prayers, rituals, and festivals. Conversely, the new moon was a time of rest, reflection, and rejuvenation, both for the body and the spirit. In a way, the moon provided a rhythm to life, much like the beats of a drum marking the passage of time. Historians still debate whether this deeply spiritual approach to time was unique to India, or whether it mirrored ancient cultures in other parts of the world. Some scholars suggest that ancient Indian timekeeping was influenced by Mesopotamian or Egyptian systems, while others argue that it developed independently, rooted in India's unique philosophical and religious traditions, regardless of the exact origin. It is clear that the ancient Indians saw time as something sacred, connected not only to the practical world, but also to the spiritual and cosmic realms. Now, while the moon had its own rhythm, the next piece of the timekeeping puzzle in ancient India was the sidereal day. Unlike the solar day, which is based on the sun's position, the sidereal day is based on the rotation of the Earth relative to the fixed stars. This concept might sound a little confusing, but stick with me. It's actually a very sophisticated method of measuring time. The sidereal day is roughly 23 hours and 56 minutes long, a fraction shorter than the solar day we use today. This approach was used in Indian astronomy and was important in calculating astronomical distances and times. The ancient Indians not only tracked the motion of the sun and the phases of the moon, they observed the fixed stars and how they shifted throughout the year. By aligning the sidereal day with the movement of the stars, they were able to construct a cosmic calendar that was far more precise than the standard lunar or solar calendars used by most ancient cultures. Now, I know, you might be thinking, why does all of this matter? Well, the sidereal day was crucial for understanding the larger cycles of the universe and the timing of celestial events. The ancient Indians used this knowledge to not only track the passage of time, but also to predict eclipses, planetary movements, and cosmic alignments that were believed to influence human affairs. In essence, they didn't just measure time, they predicted the future. Historians still argue about the exact methods used by the ancient Indians to measure the sidereal day. Some scholars suggest they developed their own methods independently, while others believe they were influenced by Babylonian or Greek astronomy. What we do know is that these early astronomical observations and calculations laid the foundation for the more complex systems of timekeeping that would emerge in the centuries to come. The precision of these timekeeping systems also played a crucial role in the development of Indian architecture and astronomy. Many of the ancient Indian temples were aligned with celestial bodies, marking the passage of time with their architectural features. The solstices and equinoxes, as well as the movement of planets, were reflected in the temple designs and in the placement of statues and shrines. These architectural alignments were not just about aesthetics. They were deeply rooted in the understanding of cosmic cycles and how they affected the human experience. As we continue through the night, think about how the ancient Indians saw time, not as a fleeting, mechanical construct, but as a cyclical and spiritual force. Their methods of timekeeping, guided by the sun, the moon, and the stars, provided a deeper connection to the natural world and the cosmic order. It's a reminder of how time, in its purest sense, isn't just about minutes and hours. It's about aligning ourselves with the universe, understanding the natural rhythms that govern our existence. The night deepens, and as the stars above twinkle and shift in their eternal dance, you can't help but imagine how the ancient Indians, far before us, looked to the heavens with wonder, as though the cosmos was a great clock ticking away the moments of life. These celestial observations weren't just for the sake of curiosity, they were foundational to understanding the rhythms of the earth and its place in the universe. Ancient Indian timekeeping was built on this delicate connection between the heavens and the earth, weaving the stars, the moon, and the sun into the very fabric of existence. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps to keep exploring the wonders of ancient history, bringing these forgotten methods of time measurement to light. And as always, leave your location and local time in the comments below. below. I love knowing how far and wide these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's dive deeper into the fascinating world of Indian astronomy and its pivotal role in measuring time. While the shadow clocks and moon phases guided daily life, it was the movement of stars that gave Indian astronomers their most precise understanding of cosmic cycles. These early astronomers, armed with a deep knowledge of the sidereal day, used the stars not only to track time, but also to predict events that would shape both daily and spiritual life. One of the most important tools used in this practice was the astrolabe, a device that allowed the observer to measure the position of the stars relative to the horizon. The astrolabe, which had multiple applications, from determining time to helping with navigation, was essential in measuring the movement of stars across the sky. Historians still argue about whether the astrolabe was independently developed in India, or whether it was influenced by Greek or Arabian advancements in astronomical tools. Regardless, its use in India was sophisticated and pivotal in the development of timekeeping. The sidereal day, remember, is slightly shorter than the solar day, measuring time based on the fixed stars rather than the sun's movement. This allowed ancient Indians to track not just the hours of the day, but the bigger picture, the cosmic rhythm that governed the entire universe. The importance of the sidereal day cannot be overstated. It helped ancient Indian astronomers determine the length of the year, track the positions of planets, and predict important astronomical events like eclipses. But here's the quirky tidbit. While the sidereal day may have been scientifically accurate, it wasn't always practical for daily life. The solar day, determined by the sun's position, remained the primary guide for organizing daily activities, as it was easier to observe with the naked eye. However, the sidereal day provided a much more accurate framework for understanding the universe's larger cycles, offering a window into time that went beyond the ordinary. In this sense, Indian astronomy was deeply philosophical, an attempt to understand not just the world they could see, but the cosmic cycles that governed their lives. Now, the connection between astronomy and timekeeping wasn't limited to just measuring the day or year. It also extended to understanding the larger cycles of existence. Ancient Indian philosophy viewed time in cyclical terms, meaning that time itself wasn't a linear progression, but rather a repeating cycle of creation and destruction. This idea of the Kala Chakra, or Wheel of Time, reflected not only the physical movements of celestial bodies, but also the cyclical nature of life and death. Cyclic time was the heart of many Indian spiritual and religious practices, and the astronomical observations tied to it helped define the beginning and end of ages. Historians still argue whether this cyclical view of time was unique to India or shared by other early civilizations. Some scholars point out that ancient cultures, such as those in Mesopotamia and Egypt, also had cyclic views of time, influenced perhaps by the seasons or celestial cycles. But what set India apart was its integrated approach, where astronomy, philosophy, and religion intertwined seamlessly. The celestial cycles weren't just tools for measuring time, they were metaphors for understanding the cycles of existence. As you think about this, imagine how these ancient Indians used their understanding of sidereal time, celestial cycles, and the Kala Chakra to guide their daily lives. The stars weren't just a guide to the night, they were a bridge between the earthly and the divine. With each planetary movement and each eclipse, they saw patterns that weren't just astronomical, but spiritual as well. The stars were more than just distant lights in the sky. They were symbols of something far greater, the cosmic order that governed life and death, creation and destruction. While modern timekeeping methods are governed by machines, calculations, and precise measurements, the ancient Indians relied on the stars to guide their days and shape their understanding of the universe. This deep connection between the heavens and human existence created a timekeeping system that was both scientifically advanced and spiritually profound. Their awareness of the celestial cycles helped define not just the seasons and years, but the very structure of life itself. In many ways, we've come full circle. Today, as we glance at our watches and smartphones, we are still connected to those ancient traditions. The stars continue to guide us, even if we no longer need to watch them to mark the passing of the day. We've traded sundials and astrolabes for digital clocks, but the rhythms of the heavens remain ever present in our lives, whether we're aware of them or not. As the night grows deeper and more serene, it's easy to lose yourself in the quiet hum of time. You can imagine the vast expanses of the Indian sky, once filled with stars that guided not just the ancient astronomers, but everyone who relied on the heavens to mark the rhythms of their lives. They used the stars, planets, and moon not only for astronomical understanding, but as a profound connection to the cosmic order. These ancient Indians didn't just want to know what time it was, they wanted to understand their place in the universe, guided by the heavens above and the earth beneath. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means the world, as it allows me to continue diving into these ancient histories and sharing them with all of you. Also, don't forget to leave your location and local time in the comments. It's always fun to see where in the world these ancient stories reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Continuing on, as we've seen, Indian timekeeping was tied not just to the sun, moon, and stars, but also to the spiritual beliefs that permeated every aspect of life. Time was not just a mechanical tool for managing hours and minutes. It was a way to connect the physical and spiritual worlds. But what is truly fascinating is how these timekeeping methods extended beyond mere observation. They were a way of living in tune with the universe. Consider the ancient Indian calendar system, which was an intricate blend of lunar and solar cycles. The lunar months were based on the phases of the moon, but the year was defined by the solar cycle, the path the sun takes through the zodiac over the course of a year. The ancient Indian calendar had a deep understanding of both solar and lunar movements, which helped organize time for everything from agriculture to rituals to festivals. But here's the kicker. This system wasn't based on a rigid, mechanical approach to time. Instead, it was designed to keep everything in alignment with the cosmic rhythms. The year wasn't just measured in days and months. It was mapped according to celestial movements, a reflection of the cosmic order. Historians still argue about how accurate the Indian calendar was compared to other early calendars. Some believe the Egyptian or Mesopotamian calendars were far more advanced, while others assert that Indian astronomers had a much deeper understanding of time and the cosmos, given their use of sidereal measurements and their detailed calculations of the sidereal year. The truth lies somewhere in between. The ancient Indian calendar was sophisticated for its time, reflecting a cosmic perspective on time that combined both practical and philosophical elements. One of the most impressive aspects of the Indian calendar was its ability to reconcile the solar year and the lunar cycle. The solar year, the time it takes for the Earth to revolve around the sun, is roughly 365 days. The lunar cycle, on the other hand, is 5 days long, making a lunar year about 354 days, a difference of about 11 days. So, to keep things aligned, the ancient Indians had to adjust their calendar to account for this discrepancy, inserting an extra month every few years to synchronize the solar and lunar cycles. This was the leap month, a system that was far more advanced than many other early civilizations, who either didn't recognize the discrepancy or didn't know how to adjust for it. But the complexity of the Indian calendar didn't just stop at the solar and lunar cycles. It also incorporated a sophisticated system of constellations called the nakshatras. These 27 or 28 constellations in the night sky were used to define the lunar months. and also served as markers for auspicious times for religious ceremonies, agricultural activities, and even personal life events, like marriages or pilgrimages. Each nakshatra had a specific symbolism and spiritual significance, making the calendar not just a tool for measuring time, but a guide for living harmoniously with the universe. Historians still debate whether these nakshatras were originally part of a scientific or spiritual system, but there's no question that they were central to the Indian understanding of time. The use of the nakshatras brought a cosmic dimension to timekeeping, linking the practical need to measure time with a spiritual and philosophical approach. The position of the moon in relation to the nakshatras could determine whether the time was right for a specific action. Whether it was a time to plant crops, start a journey, or perform a ritual. In addition to the nakshatras, the Indian system of timekeeping also included the concept of the yuga cycle, which was a cosmic cycle that divided the universe's existence into 4 ages, each one representing a different stage of humanity's evolution. These yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, were believed to represent cosmic eras that measured time on an epic scale. The Yuga cycle is one of the most philosophical aspects of Indian timekeeping, suggesting that time isn't just something that passes, it's a cycle of growth, decline, and renewal. Historians still argue about the cosmic accuracy of the Yuga cycles, whether they were meant to be taken literally as actual measurements of time, or if they were symbolic representations of the cosmic order and human development. What is clear, however, is that this view of time shaped how the ancient Indians understood their place in the universe. Time wasn't simply a thing to measure. It was a living and breathing force, part of the cosmic dance that defined both the heavens and the earth. Looking back at these methods, it's clear that the ancient Indians didn't just track time, they experienced it. From the lunar calendar to the nakshatras to the Yuga cycle, time was seen as a living force, an intrinsic part of the cosmic cycle that connected everything in the universe. It wasn't just about measuring time, it was about understanding it, seeing the passage of time as something that was both spiritual and practical. This unique approach to timekeeping was deeply intertwined with the ancient Indians' view of the universe and their place within it, as the stars above continue their eternal journey through the vast expanse of the night. The ancient Indians stand out as pioneers in their understanding of time. The beauty of their timekeeping methods lies not just in the accuracy of their measurements, but in how seamlessly they integrated time with the natural world. Every phase of the moon, every sunrise and sunset, every planetary movement, and the stars themselves. All these elements were not only the tools used to measure time, but a reminder of how cosmically aligned their view of existence was. The Indians didn't see time as an isolated measurement. They saw it as part of an intricate web connecting nature, the heavens, and even the spiritual realms. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support keeps these ancient stories alive and accessible. Also, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. It's amazing to see how far these ancient practices have resonated. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, let's shift our focus a little and look at how the ancient Indian astronomical systems influenced architecture. The connection between timekeeping and spirituality wasn't just confined to calendars or religious rituals. It was also built into the very structures of the society itself. Temples, palaces, and even cities were carefully aligned with the cosmic cycles that governed life. The placement of the sun, the moon, and the stars determined the alignment of sacred spaces, and the observance of celestial events like the solstices or equinoxes often marked significant religious and cultural moments. Take, For instance, the temples of ancient India. Many temples, especially those built around the time of the Maurya and Gupta dynasties, were designed with an understanding of the astronomical cycles in mind. The main entrance of the temple often faced the sunrise on the summer solstice, ensuring that the temple was bathed in sunlight at an important time of the year. This alignment wasn't just for aesthetic purposes. It symbolized the temple's connection to the divine and the cosmic order. Much like how timekeeping connected the everyday person to the heavens, these structures served as constant reminders of how cosmic rhythms defined the world around them. Historians still debate the extent to which this celestial alignment in Indian architecture was influenced by ancient Egyptian or Mesopotamian practices. Some argue that the Indians were inspired by these other civilizations' solar alignments, while others point to India's unique spiritual and astronomical traditions as the driving forces behind these practices. Regardless of the origins, what's clear is that these architectural alignments reflected the Indian view of time as a force that wasn't just abstract, but something that could be physically experienced and honored. Now, we can't talk about time without mentioning one of the most fascinating and sophisticated aspects of ancient Indian timekeeping: their mathematics. The ancient Indians were pioneers in geometry and algebra, and their understanding of astronomy and timekeeping was inextricably tied to their ability to make precise mathematical calculations. The ability to measure and predict the movements of the stars and planets wasn't just about observation. It was about mathematics, about understanding ratios, angles, and circles. The very design of their astrolabes, sundials, and other instruments depended on this advanced knowledge. In fact, the ancient Indian mathematician Aryabhata is often credited with making significant contributions to both astronomy and mathematics. He proposed that the Earth rotates on its axis, and that the moon and planets reflect the light of the sun, concepts that were not widely accepted in the Western world for centuries. Aryabhata also formulated precise calculations for the length of the year and the position of the planets, laying the foundation for more accurate astronomical and timekeeping systems. Historians still debate the influence of Aryabhata's work on later Western scientific thought. Was his work an isolated discovery, or did it inspire later scholars like Copernicus and Galileo? Some believe that his work influenced Arab and European mathematicians and astronomers, while others argue that the connection between these cultures was more tenuous. Regardless, Aryabhata's influence on Indian astronomy was profound, shaping not just the methods of timekeeping, but also the philosophical and scientific approach to the universe itself. Another fascinating mathematical advancement in India was their understanding of zero. While the concept of zero is often credited to the Mayans or Mesopotamians, the ancient Indians were the first to use zero as both a placeholder and a number in its own right. This mathematical breakthrough had profound implications not only for timekeeping and astronomy, but for the entire field of mathematics. The ability to represent large numbers using zero and the decimal system made it much easier to perform complex astronomical calculations. Whether measuring time, planets, or stars, historians still debate the origins of the decimal system. And zero, was it independently developed in India, or was it influenced by earlier Babylonian or Egyptian systems? What is clear, however, is that the Indian contribution to mathematics and astronomy helped shape the way we measure time today, allowing future civilizations to make precise calculations that led to the development of the modern world. And yet, despite all these advances, ancient Indian timekeeping was not simply a matter of precise measurements and calculations. It was about understanding the cycles, the cyclic nature of the universe, the rhythms of life, and the connection between the cosmos and the earth. For the ancient Indians, time wasn't something you just measured. It was something you lived by, an ever-present reminder that we are all part of a much larger cosmic dance. As you settle deeper into the quiet, it's hard not to think about the mystical connection ancient Indians had with the universe. Time wasn't just something that passed for them. It was a cosmic rhythm that they lived in harmony with. They didn't just measure time. They understood it. From the daily shifts in the position of the sun, to the monthly cycle of the moon, to the alignment of the stars. Ancient Indian timekeeping was as much about spiritual connection as it was about precise calculations. They saw time as a living, breathing force, influencing everything from the rituals they performed to the crops they planted. And in many ways, these ancient practices still resonate today, giving us a glimpse into how deeply connected we all are to the universe. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means I can keep unraveling these fascinating stories for you. Don't forget to leave your location and local time in the comments. It's always fun to see how far and why these ancient practices reach. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's talk a bit more about the lunar calendar, one of the cornerstones of ancient Indian timekeeping. The lunar cycle was more than just a method for measuring time. It was a guide for everyday life. The phases of the moon weren't just markers for rituals. They were a direct connection to the cosmic forces that governed all of existence. Every phase, the waxing moon, the full moon, the waning moon, was imbued with its own meaning, purpose, and spiritual significance. The ancient Indians didn't just use the moon to track time. They used it to align their actions with the universe's natural rhythms. The full moon, for example, wasn't just a beautiful celestial sight. It was the most auspicious time for certain rituals. It was believed that the cosmic energy was at its peak during the full moon, making it the ideal time for prayers, offerings, and spiritual practices. The new moon, on the other hand, marked a time for reflection, rest, and rejuvenation. It was a time to reset, to realign oneself with the rhythms of the earth and cosmos. These lunar cycles were not just about marking days. They were about living in harmony with the universe. Historians still debate whether the lunar calendar was purely functional, created as a tool to track the seasons and agricultural cycles, or whether it had a deeper, more spiritual significance. Some believe that the ancient Indians saw the moon's phases as symbols of life itself: birth, growth, decay, and rebirth, while others suggest that the calendar was primarily about measuring time for practical purposes. Either way, the moon was central to how ancient Indians conceptualized time, making it much more than just a means of tracking hours and days. Now, while the lunar calendar played a central role in ancient Indian life, it was also part of a much larger system of timekeeping that was tied to the cosmic forces. Time was not simply divided into days and months in India. It was divided into epochs, or yugas, which reflected the cyclical nature of both the universe and human existence. The idea of the Yuga cycle, with its 4 distinct ages, from the Satya Yuga to the Kali Yuga, was central to Indian cosmology and timekeeping. Each yuga represented a different phase in the evolution of life and society. Historians still argue whether the yugas were meant to represent real historical periods, or whether they were more philosophical concepts designed to express the cyclical nature of time. Some scholars believe the yugas are tied to actual historical events, while others argue that they are more symbolic, reflecting the ebb and flow of human virtue and decay. Regardless of their interpretation, the yugas provide a framework through which the ancient Indians viewed time as not a linear progression, but a never-ending cycle. This view of time as cyclical, where creation, destruction, and rebirth happen in an eternal loop, was a cornerstone of ancient Indian philosophy. The Kala Chakra, or Wheel of Time, is another fascinating concept tied to this cyclical view of time. In this system, time is not just a progression of moments, but a cosmic wheel that turns endlessly. The Kala Chakra represents the eternal return, the idea that time and existence are cyclical, with no true beginning or end. In many ways, this view of time is deeply connected to the spiritual understanding of the universe. Time, in this view, is not just something to measure, but something to experience as part of the cosmic dance that connects us all. Historians continue to explore the significance of the Kala Chakra and the yugas in Indian philosophy and timekeeping. Was this a practical tool used to explain astronomical phenomena, or was it more about spiritual wisdom? The answer likely lies in both. The ancient Indians didn't just measure time for the sake of practicality. They saw time as a cosmic force that influenced everything from the seasons to human destiny. Time wasn't just something to be tracked. It was something to be understood, respected, and aligned with. So, as the night sky unfolds above you, remember that time, for the ancient Indians, was much more than minutes and hours. It was a cosmic rhythm, a dance between the earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars. Time was something that could be felt, experienced, and lived in harmony with the universe's greater forces. And while our clocks may tick on with precision, it's important to remember that for those who came before us, time was always part of a much bigger picture, a picture that stretched far beyond the passing of the hours. As the night deepens, imagine stepping back into the ancient Indian world. You're standing beneath a starry sky, surrounded by the sounds of nature, with nothing but the light of the moon and the movements of the stars to guide you through the passing night. Time here isn't defined by the ticking of a clock. Instead, it's a cosmic rhythm, in perfect harmony with the celestial cycles above. The people of ancient India didn't just mark time as something that passed. They experienced it in its most profound and spiritual sense. This wasn't a system of numbers and measurements as we know it. It was a living connection to the universe, a belief that time and space were intimately connected, guided by the heavens. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me to keep uncovering these hidden gems of ancient knowledge and sharing them with you. Don't forget to leave your location and local time in the comments below. This whole journey through time feels even more special when I know how far it reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. At the heart of this cosmic understanding of time was the ancient Indian concept of cycles. Time, to the people of India, wasn't a straight line. It was a circle, a continuous loop, where the end and the beginning were part of the same whole. The Kala Chakra, or Wheel of Time, encapsulated this idea, showing that time wasn't something that passed linearly. It was a cycle of renewal and transformation. Life, death, and rebirth were all part of this eternal dance, where each cycle flowed seamlessly into the next. But it wasn't just about spirituality. These cycles had practical applications as well, guiding everything from agriculture to religious rituals. Historians still debate the deeper meaning of the Kala Chakra. Was it simply a philosophical concept, or was it also a practical tool used to organize daily life and align the community with cosmic rhythms? Some scholars believe that the Kala Chakra was the key to understanding the philosophy of time in ancient India, where astronomy and spirituality were inseparable. In this worldview, time was a force that had to be respected and honored, as it governed not only the physical world, but also the spiritual journey of every individual. The ancient Indian understanding of time also tied into Vedic philosophy, where the rituals, the sacrifices, and the ceremonial observances were carefully scheduled around the cycles of the moon, the sun, and the planets. Time wasn't just something you marked off. It was something you lived by, every day, every hour, every moon phase. It wasn't just about predicting the next harvest or the full moon. It was about living in sync with the natural world, allowing each moment to flow with the universe's rhythm. But there's something even more fascinating to consider: how Indian timekeeping was tied to astrology and spiritual growth. The position of the planets and the stars were believed to affect not just the seasonal cycles or earthly events, but also the destiny of individuals. Astrology, or Jyotisha, was central to Indian society, guiding decisions on everything from marriage to political strategies to personal endeavors. The birth chart, based on the positions of the planets and stars at the time of one's birth, was seen as a map for the person's life path, revealing their karma and spiritual challenges. Historians still debate whether Jyotisha was simply a form of divination or whether it represented a deeply scientific study of the celestial forces. Some scholars suggest that it was a mixture of both, a way to combine the knowledge of the stars with the understanding of human nature and destiny. Either way, it's clear that time in ancient India was spiritualized. It wasn't just something to be measured, it was something that had to be understood deeply, as a guide for both earthly and spiritual journeys. Moving away from astrology, let's focus a bit on how these astronomical principles were connected to daily life. Ancient Indians didn't just track time for the sake of it. They lived in an organized world, where everything, from rituals to festivals to work, had to happen at the right time. Festivals were scheduled to coincide with the lunar months and cosmic events, making them not just a celebration of culture, but also a spiritual alignment with the universe. Festivals like Diwali or Holi were tied to the lunar calendar, each one representing a cosmic shift or a moment of renewal in the cycle of time. These celebrations weren't arbitrary. They were timed to cosmic rhythms, ensuring that each one had its maximum spiritual impact. Historians still argue whether these festivals were purely religious rituals or if they had a practical purpose in ancient society. Were they celebrations of spiritual renewal, or were they tied to agricultural or seasonal cycles? Some suggest that they were about marking cosmic events that influenced crops, weather, and seasons, while others argue that they were more about aligning human activity with the heavenly cycles to bring spiritual balance to the world. Either way, these festivals reflected the integral connection between time, cosmic forces, and the everyday lives of people. The idea of cosmic order and cycles didn't just guide the rituals and festivals of ancient India. It also shaped the way the people viewed history itself. The yugas, the great ages of time, weren't just symbols for understanding the cosmos. They were also ways of conceptualizing human history and civilization. According to Indian thought, the world passes through cycles of growth, decay, and renewal, just like the moon waxes and wanes and the sun rises and sets. The Kali Yuga, the final age, was considered the darkest, a time of moral decline and spiritual struggle. But even then, there was hope that the cycle would turn again, bringing a new beginning with the next Satya Yuga, a time of truth, wisdom, and spiritual purity. In this way, time in ancient India wasn't just about marking days and months. It was a way to understand the cosmic dance that we all partake in. Time was a rhythm, a flow, and ancient Indians lived by this rhythm, tuning their lives to the movements of the universe, seeking to align themselves with the greater cycles of life, death, and rebirth as the stars twinkle above and time seems to stand still. We begin to realize just how deeply timekeeping in ancient India was tied to more than just the measurement of the hours or the passing days. For the ancient Indians, time wasn't just a method for tracking the seasons or organizing the day. It was a cosmic rhythm, a force that governed everything from the rise and fall of empires to the individual's personal spiritual journey. The ancient practice of timekeeping intertwined with the philosophy of the cycles of existence, where birth, death, and rebirth were seen as part of an endless loop, rather than a one-way, linear progression. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps keep these timeless stories alive, and I'm so grateful for your engagement. Also, feel free to share your location and the time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see where this ancient knowledge is being appreciated around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As we reflect on how ancient Indians tracked time, we can see that their methods were sophisticated and scientifically accurate, but also steeped in spiritual significance. From the movement of the sun to the lunar phases, the ancient Indians didn't just measure time in terms of hours and days. They viewed time as a cosmic force, deeply interconnected with the natural world and the spiritual cycles of life. The moon's phases were as much about spirituality as they were about agriculture. The waxing and waning of the moon were seen as metaphors for the growth and decay of life itself. At the heart of this was the concept of cycles, the endless cycles of creation and destruction. The ancient Indian understanding of time wasn't just concerned with measuring the passage of time in hours or years. It was about understanding time's cyclical nature, where the end of one age leads into the beginning of the next. The yugas, or ages of time, were a reflection of this belief. These cycles were not just symbolic, but represented the way the universe itself moved through phases. Satya Yuga, the age of truth and wisdom. Treta Yuga, the age of righteousness. Dvapara Yuga, the age of decline. And finally, Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and chaos. According to the Indian view of time, the world was reborn after each cycle, with humanity experiencing the cycle from one end to the other. This cyclical view of time provided a framework for understanding both the cosmic and personal journey of existence. Historians still argue whether the concept of yugas was intended as a literal measurement of time, or if it was more of a metaphorical system, reflecting humanity's spiritual journey. Some believe that the yugas were a way to measure the ages of the world, while others argue that they were symbolic representations of the stages of human development. Regardless of the exact interpretation, the concept of the yugas remains a central feature of Indian cosmology and timekeeping. It's a reminder that time, in its purest sense, is more than just the passing of hours. It's the eternal cycle that connects us all to something greater. Ancient Indian timekeeping wasn't only concerned with measuring time for practical purposes. It was intertwined with the spiritual and cosmic principles that governed life. The passage of time wasn't just an abstract measurement. It was something deeply meaningful. The alignment of the sun and the moon marked the rhythm of life itself. As each year passed, people didn't just measure time. They used it to mark their spiritual progress, aligning themselves with the cosmic cycles that they believed were the very fabric of existence. Now, let's consider how this ancient Indian system of timekeeping influenced the larger world. We've seen that timekeeping in ancient India wasn't just about measuring days and years. It was about understanding the cosmic cycles that connect us all. But the influence of Indian timekeeping extended far beyond the borders of the subcontinent. Indian astronomy, particularly through the works of mathematicians like Aryabhata and Brahmagupta, had a significant impact on the development of astronomy and mathematics in other parts of the world. Especially in the Middle East and Europe, scholars in the Islamic world translated ancient Indian texts, spreading knowledge of timekeeping, astronomy, and mathematics across the Arab world, where it would influence future developments in both fields. Historians still argue about the exact influence of Indian astronomy on the Islamic Golden Age and the European Renaissance. Some scholars suggest that Indian mathematical concepts, such as the use of zero and the decimal system, helped lay the foundation for modern science. Others believe that Indian influence on astronomy was more indirect, passing through Arabic scholars who integrated and expanded upon earlier Indian knowledge. Regardless of the specific pathways, it's clear that Indian timekeeping had a lasting impact on the development of global astronomy and mathematics, influencing the scientific revolution in the West centuries later. Even today, we continue to see the influence of ancient Indian timekeeping in modern practices. Many of the methods of lunar calendar calculation used by ancient Indians are still in use today in parts of Asia and South Asia. The spiritual practices that align with the moon's phases continue to shape rituals and festivals in India. The Indian system of time isn't just something relegated to history, it's still very much alive in the world today. So, as we reflect on the intricacies of ancient Indian timekeeping, it becomes clear that time was never just a commodity or an abstract concept for them. It was a deep, spiritual force that guided their lives, from their daily activities to their rituals, and their understanding of the cosmos. Their mastery of astronomy, mathematics, and spiritual practices provided a profound understanding of the cyclical nature of time. In ancient India, time wasn't something we simply measured. It was something we lived in harmony with, understanding that each moment is part of a larger, endless cosmic rhythm. As you settle in, ready to take in the final reflections of this long journey, you begin to feel the true depth of how the ancient Indian connection to time was both profound and universal. Time, to the ancient Indians, wasn't simply about passing moments. It was a cosmic dance, an eternal rhythm that governed not only the stars and planets, but every aspect of human existence. This holistic view of time didn't just guide daily life or mark the passage of days and months. It was woven into the very fabric of existence, connecting humanity to the cosmos, to the cycles of the sun, the moon, and even to the spiritual forces that shaped life. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means I can keep diving into these timeless stories and sharing them with you. And as always, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. It's always amazing to see how this knowledge transcends time and space. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. At the heart of ancient Indian timekeeping was the unwavering connection between astronomy and spirituality. While other cultures might have used time as a purely practical tool, the ancient Indians saw time as a reflection of the cosmic order, a link between the earthly and the divine. The Kala Chakra, or Wheel of Time, symbolized this deep connection to the cycles of the universe. The ancient Indian worldview of time was cyclical, not linear. Everything, from the sun to the planets, from birth to death, was seen as part of a great repeating cycle of creation, preservation, and destruction. While we today use mechanical clocks and digital devices to track the passing minutes and hours, the ancient Indians measured time by observing the movements of the stars, the sun, and the moon. Each phase of the moon was tied to specific activities, from agricultural practices to religious rituals. The lunar calendar was central to Indian life, guiding festivals, ceremonies, and even personal milestones like weddings and pilgrimages. This wasn't just about keeping track of days. It was about aligning one's life with the cosmic forces that shaped existence. Historians still debate the origins of the lunar calendar in India. Some suggest it was inspired by ancient Mesopotamian or Egyptian systems, while others argue that it developed independently as part of the deep spiritual and philosophical traditions of India. What is clear is that the ancient Indians were masters of time, not just in terms of precise measurements, but in their spiritual and philosophical understanding of the universe. Time was not just something to be tracked. It was something to be respected, honored, and lived in alignment with. The way ancient Indians divided their world was a constant reminder of how time was part of a larger cosmic order. In addition to the lunar calendar, they had a detailed system of yugas, or cosmic ages, which divided time into 4 major periods. Satya Yuga, the age of truth and wisdom. Treta Yuga, the age of righteousness. Dvapara Yuga, the age of decline. And Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and chaos. These yugas reflected the rise and fall of civilizations and human morality, emphasizing the cyclical nature of life. The idea that the end of one cycle would eventually give birth to the next was deeply rooted in Indian cosmology. Historians still argue whether the Yuga system was meant to be taken literally as the ages of time, or whether it was a metaphysical framework to explain the ebb and flow of human history. Some scholars suggest that the Yugas represent not just cosmic ages, but spiritual stages that individuals and societies must pass through. Others believe that the system is a way of explaining the moral decline of civilizations over time. Regardless of the exact meaning, the Yugas represented a worldview in which time was not linear, but cyclical, a cycle of renewal and decay that was intimately tied to the natural world. The connection between astronomy and spirituality wasn't just intellectual, it was deeply practical. The position of the planets and the stars governed the timing of events, guiding everything from agriculture to personal endeavors. The ancient Indians used astronomy to predict the future. Whether it was the monsoon season, the best time for planting crops, or the moment for spiritual reflection, the stars didn't just mark the night sky. They were part of a larger cosmic rhythm that governed the cycles of life. The sun, moon, and stars were seen as expressions of the divine order, and following their cycles was believed to bring individuals and societies into alignment with the greater universal forces. What's fascinating is how this ancient understanding of time was reflected in the architecture of Indian temples, which were designed with incredible astronomical precision. Many temples were built to align with celestial events, the sunrise on the summer solstice, or the position of the stars during key spiritual moments. These architectural alignments weren't just about creating awe-inspiring buildings. They were a way to bring the temple into alignment with the cosmic order. This fusion of timekeeping and spiritual architecture shows just how integral the connection between time and the cosmos was in shaping Indian culture. In many ways, these ancient practices of timekeeping continue to influence modern India today. The lunar calendar is still used for many religious festivals, and the idea of cycles continues to shape the way people understand time and spirituality. The ancient Indian practice of measuring time wasn't just about numbers or calculations. It was about aligning life with the natural rhythms of the universe, creating a deep sense of connection to the cosmic forces that shape existence. Looking at this now, you begin to see how time, in ancient India, wasn't just about getting through the day. It was about living in harmony with the universe, understanding the cycles that governed both the cosmic and human experience. Time wasn't a fixed entity. It was a fluid force, a rhythm that everyone was meant to follow, a cosmic dance that linked every moment to the divine. In this view, time isn't something we just track. It's something we live. As the evening stretches on, there's a growing sense of awareness about how ancient Indian methods of timekeeping didn't just serve practical needs. They were deeply philosophical, connecting the individual to the cosmic forces. These systems didn't just divide the day into hours or mark the seasons. They were a lens through which people understood their place in the universe. Time wasn't just the progression of minutes, hours, or days. It was a reflection of the cycles of existence itself. The stars, the moon, the sun, and even the seasons were part of a grander cosmic order. And the ancient Indian practice of timekeeping allowed people to align themselves with this rhythm. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support ensures I can continue diving into these fascinating histories and sharing them with you. And feel free to leave your location and local time in the comments. I always find it intriguing to see where in the world these ancient stories resonate. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's important to recognize that the calendar system used by the ancient Indians wasn't just about the lunar cycle. It was a sophisticated integration of both solar and lunar movements, designed to align the practical and the spiritual in daily life. Astrology played an enormous role in determining the ideal times for everything. From planting crops to marrying and even conducting religious rituals, the movement of the planets was seen as guiding influences in the personal and spiritual lives of individuals. In essence, timekeeping in ancient India was a sacred act, one that bound people to the greater rhythms of the universe. Historians still debate whether the astrological influence on timekeeping was primarily for practical reasons, such as predicting weather patterns and seasonal shifts, or if it was tied to more spiritual beliefs about human destiny and cosmic alignment. Some scholars argue that the ancient Indians used astrological knowledge to make sense of both personal and societal events, ensuring that individuals lived in harmony with the cosmic forces. Others believe that astrology was more of a divinatory practice, used to guide people through the uncertainty of life by providing predictions of the future based on the alignment of stars and planets. Either way, the integration of astronomy, astrology, and timekeeping in India was far more advanced than many other cultures. While Western civilizations were still using basic methods of measuring time through sundials and rudimentary clocks, the ancient Indians were calculating precise astronomical cycles using a combination of lunar and solar months, and they had created a system that could predict not only the weather, but the best times for sowing crops, harvesting, and even the timing of religious festivals. And the ancient Indian calendar wasn't just practical, it was also spiritual. The positions of the planets and constellations were seen as more than just astronomical observations. They were seen as cosmic markers that had deep spiritual significance. Certain planets or lunar phases were believed to influence the outcome of certain life events. For example, the positions of Mars or Venus were closely watched for their supposed effects on personal relationships and warfare, while the phases of the moon could determine the most auspicious times for performing rituals or sowing crops. This belief system placed a tremendous amount of importance on cosmic cycles, not just for their ability to predict events, but for the way they intertwined with the spiritual journey of the individual. Historians still debate whether this cosmic approach to timekeeping and astrology was rooted in scientific observation or in religious beliefs. Some suggest that ancient Indian astronomy was an early form of scientific inquiry, where observations were made and calculated to understand the natural world, while others argue that it was a deeply spiritual practice that aimed to align the individual's life with the cosmic forces that governed their existence. Both perspectives are valid, and it is likely that ancient Indians saw their methods of timekeeping and astrology as a blend of both practical observation and spiritual guidance. The concept of cosmic cycles went far beyond the daily activities and rituals. It formed the foundation for the very way that people saw their place in the universe. The ancient Indians didn't view time as a linear progression of events. They saw time as a repeating cycle, a process of renewal and decay, where everything was in a constant state of flux, yet ultimately tied to a greater cosmic order. Birth, life, and death were simply the stages of this larger cycle, and the yugas or ages represented these eternal patterns in the fabric of existence. Historians have long been fascinated by the way these philosophical ideas about time, particularly the cyclical view of time as expressed in the Yuga system, shaped the ancient Indian worldview. The notion that the world goes through endless cycles of creation and destruction profoundly impacted everything from religious practices to social structures. For example, the idea of the Kali Yuga, or the Age of Darkness, inspired people to seek spiritual liberation, or moksha, by turning inward, away from the decay of the material world and towards the divine. In a way, the cyclical view of time was as much about personal spiritual progress as it was about understanding the nature of the universe. In conclusion, ancient Indian timekeeping wasn't just about counting seconds and minutes. It was a way to connect with the cosmos. It was a profound understanding of how time, space, and spirituality intermingled, shaping not only the physical world, but the spiritual journey of every individual. In many ways, their understanding of time offers us a glimpse into a world where every moment is not just a tick of the clock, but a part of a larger cosmic rhythm. The ancient Indian system of timekeeping didn't just help them measure time, it helped them understand their place in the universe and the timeless cycles that connect us all. As we continue through the quiet depths of the night, you begin to realize that the ancient Indian perspective on time was far more intricate than just observing the sun's movements or recording lunar cycles. Time wasn't just something to track. It was a living force, intertwined with the cosmic cycles that governed the very existence of the universe. Imagine stepping into a world where the stars guided your every move, and the seasons dictated not only what you did, but also who you were in relation to the cosmos. The ancient Indians didn't simply see themselves as passive observers of time. They were active participants in a grand cosmic dance, each movement synchronized with the rhythms of the universe. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support allows me to continue unfolding the layers of ancient wisdom, bringing stories from the past to life. And, as always, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. It's fascinating to see how these ancient ideas about time travel across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's focus for a moment on the concept of cosmic alignment in ancient India, how time was intertwined not only with astronomy, but with the spiritual and ritualistic practices that guided daily life. The idea that human life was synchronized with cosmic rhythms was foundational to how the ancient Indians understood time. This wasn't simply a tool for practical living. It was a way to ensure that one's actions were aligned with the universe's greater purpose. From the phases of the moon to the cycles of the planets, every event in life, whether it was a ritual or a harvest, had its right time, tied to the cosmic calendar. Historians still argue about the role of rituals in ancient timekeeping. Were they purely spiritual practices, intended to align the individual with cosmic rhythms, or did they have a more practical purpose, tied to agriculture or social organization? Some scholars argue that the timing of rituals was directly linked to celestial events, that the alignment of the sun, moon, and stars wasn't just for spiritual reasons, but also to ensure that certain agricultural tasks, like planting and harvesting, were done at the optimal times. Others believe the rituals were entirely based on a belief in divine timing, where the planets and stars dictated the best time for personal and community rituals, regardless of their origin. What is clear is that the alignment of time and cosmic events was central to the daily life and spiritual practices of the ancient Indians. The solar year, the path that the sun travels through the zodiac, was another key part of Indian timekeeping. Unlike the lunar calendar, which was based on the phases of the moon, the solar year was more closely tied to the seasons and the natural rhythms of the earth. The ancient Indians didn't just use the solar year to track the days and months. They understood the sun's cycle as a representation of the life cycle itself. The solstices, the points when the sun was at its highest and lowest in the sky, were especially significant. These were not just markers of seasonal change, they were also spiritual markers, signaling the times for festivals, rituals, and renewal. The winter solstice, for example, marked the rebirth of the sun, a time for renewal, while the summer solstice was a time of celebration and abundance. Historians still debate how early these solar observations were incorporated into Indian timekeeping. Some believe the focus on the sun as a central timekeeper developed later, while others argue that the sun's movement was always central to the Indian understanding of time. What is clear is that the solar year was a significant part of Indian life, not just for agriculture, but also for understanding the cycles of life. The alignment of human actions with the cosmic rhythms of the sun and moon became a way for people to live in harmony with the universe, a way to align oneself with the forces that shaped existence. Now, while we're on the subject of cycles, let's explore the yugas once again, the great ages of cosmic time. The ancient Indians believed that time didn't move in a straight line. It moved in cycles. The yuga system represented the grand sweep of these cycles, where each age reflected a different aspect of cosmic order. The Satya Yuga, the age of truth, was considered a time of spiritual purity, a time when humanity lived in harmony with the divine. The Treta Yuga and Dvapara Yuga represented stages of moral decline, while the Kali Yuga, the final age, is considered a time of darkness and chaos. In this view of time, we aren't just marking the passing years. We are seeing the larger cosmic rhythms at play. The yugas weren't just abstract concepts. They were tied to the moral progress of humanity, and they were as real as the sun's rising and setting. Historians continue to explore the purpose of the yugas. Were they intended to be taken literally, as stages of human history, or were they more symbolic, representing cycles of spiritual evolution? Some scholars argue that the yugas reflect a broad view of cosmic time, where humanity goes through a natural cycle of spiritual flourishing and decline. Others suggest that the yugas were moral maps, representing the cycles of good and evil, and that understanding them can help individuals navigate the moral challenges of their own lives. The answer, as always, is likely a mixture of both. What is most striking about the yuga cycle is how it integrates time, spirituality, and the natural world. It's not just a way of measuring time, it's a way of understanding the nature of existence itself, the cycles of creation and destruction, birth and death. Growth and decay are mirrored in the cycles of the planets, the sun and the moon. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, so too do the cycles of human life. The ancient Indian view of time teaches us that time is not something fixed or linear. It is a living rhythm, a cosmic flow in which we all participate. Time, like the moon, is both a measure and a mystery. The stars still glimmer above as the night stretches on, a reminder of how the ancient Indians looked to the heavens, not just to measure time, but to understand their place within the vast cosmic order. For them, time was not a simple sequence of moments. It was part of a universal cycle, a rhythm that pulsed through everything, from the changing seasons to the rise and fall of empires. It was a rhythm that connected every person, every ritual, and every life event to the cosmic dance that played out above. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue bringing these ancient stories back to life. And, as always, leave your location and local time in the comments. It's a beautiful reminder of how time moves differently around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As we drift deeper into the understanding of time in ancient India, we come across a concept that is as fascinating as it is complex: the idea of cosmic synchronization. You see, ancient Indians didn't just look at time as something you measure. They saw it as something that flowed through all aspects of life. This idea is beautifully captured in the concept of Mahurats, auspicious times selected for important events based on the alignment of stars and planets. For the ancient Indians, the universe wasn't just a background setting. It was an active force that influenced the outcome of events. Historians still argue about the origins of Muhurats and their use in Indian society. Some suggest that these auspicious times were purely spiritual concepts, meant to align one's actions with cosmic forces for better fortune. Others argue that they had practical implications, particularly for agriculture and seasonal activities. By observing the phases of the moon and the movement of stars, ancient Indians could determine the best times to plant or harvest crops, aligning their lives with the natural cosmic rhythm. To understand this, think about how planting seeds at the wrong time could result in a failed harvest, or how certain rituals performed under the wrong stars were believed to bring misfortune. The concept of Muhurat wasn't just mystical, it was practical wisdom, a way to live in sync with the cosmic order. Marriages, temple dedications, and even the founding of cities were planned according to these astronomical observations. In many ways, Muhurats represent the deep integration of astronomy and spirituality in Indian culture. But ancient Indians didn't stop at just picking the right moment for events. They also mapped out larger cycles of time with staggering precision. One of the most sophisticated concepts they developed was the Vedic calendar, which is still used today for many Hindu rituals and festivals. Unlike the Gregorian calendar that most of us are familiar with, the Vedic calendar is based on both solar and lunar cycles, ensuring it remains in alignment with the cosmic movements. The Vedic calendar divides the year into two main parts: Uttarayana, the northern journey of the sun, and Dakshinayana, the southern journey of the sun. These two periods are further divided into months, which are calculated based on the moon's cycles. The solar year is marked by the movement of the sun through the zodiac, while the lunar months follow the phases of the moon. This dual system allowed ancient Indians to track both agricultural cycles and religious observances with remarkable accuracy. Historians still debate whether the Vedic calendar was purely astronomical or if it was primarily a spiritual guide. Some argue that it was a system designed to manage agricultural activities, ensuring that crops were planted and harvested in alignment with the seasons. Others suggest that its main purpose was spiritual alignment, providing a way for people to live in harmony with the cosmic order. The truth, as always, likely lies somewhere in the middle, where the practical and the spiritual were beautifully interwoven. The Vedic calendar also included incredibly precise measurements of time, right down to the second. Time was divided into muhurta, ghati, and vighati, units that allowed for incredibly specific measurements. A muhurta was about 48 minutes, while a ghati was 24 minutes, and a vighati lasted just 24 seconds. These measurements were crucial for performing rituals at exactly the right moments, ensuring that spiritual energy was maximized. It's astonishing to think that thousands of years ago, ancient Indians were measuring time in ways that would only be matched by the invention of mechanical clocks many centuries later. Historians still argue about the precision of these measurements. Some believe the Vedic system was purely symbolic, while others insist that it was incredibly accurate, rivaling even the best timekeeping methods of its era. The truth is probably a blend of both, a system that was both symbolic in its spiritual significance and scientifically advanced in its astronomical precision. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Vedic calendar was its ability to predict celestial events like eclipses. Ancient Indian astronomers were able to calculate the occurrence of solar and lunar eclipses with a high degree of accuracy, something that even European astronomers struggled to achieve until many centuries later. The knowledge of how the Earth, Moon, and Sun interacted wasn't just academic, it was spiritual. Eclipses were considered powerful cosmic events, symbolizing transformation and renewal. Rituals performed during these moments were thought to be particularly potent, reflecting the deep connection between astronomy and spiritual belief. So, as you lie back and reflect on these ancient practices, you begin to understand that timekeeping for the ancient Indians wasn't just about tracking moments. It was about aligning with the universe. It was about understanding that time is sacred, a force that moves through both the cosmic realms and the human experience. Through the Vedic calendar, the concept of Mahurats, and the profound understanding of solar and lunar cycles, the ancient Indians mastered the art of living in cosmic harmony. As you sink deeper into the night, the quiet hum of time seems to flow seamlessly, stretching across the ages, connecting you to the ancient Indian sky, where the stars glittered with purpose, and the moon marked the passage of months. In that world, time was far more than a string of moments. It was an expression of the cosmic order, an eternal rhythm that not only guided their daily lives, but connected them to the universe itself. Imagine living in a time when every sunrise, every full moon, and every eclipse was a reminder of your place in the vast cosmic design. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue to share these ancient stories and unravel the mysteries of history with you. And don't forget to drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always wonderful to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. As we continue our exploration of ancient Indian timekeeping, it's impossible not to marvel at the sheer precision and spiritual significance they attributed to their cosmic measurements. One of the most intriguing aspects of Indian astronomy was their use of the nakshatras, the lunar mansions. These were 27 constellations that mapped the moon's path through the sky. Each nakshatra represented 33 degrees of the moon's journey around the Earth. And ancient Indians used these celestial markers not only for timekeeping, but for astrology and spiritual guidance. The nakshatras were deeply symbolic and were believed to influence everything from agriculture to personal destiny. For example, the nakshatra, known as Rohini, was considered particularly auspicious for planting seeds and starting new projects. While Ashwini was tied to healing and renewal, the ancient Indians believed that each constellation carried its own energy, which could affect the outcome of events on Earth. This wasn't just superstition. It was a reflection of their profound understanding of the cosmic cycles and how they believed those cycles intertwined with daily life. Historians still debate the origins of the nakshatras. Some suggest that the concept was borrowed from Babylonian astronomy, while others argue that it was entirely indigenous, emerging from the Vedic tradition's deep connection to the stars. Regardless of its beginnings, the system of nakshatras became an essential part of Indian timekeeping, influencing everything from seasonal activities to spiritual rituals. It was a way of mapping time across the cosmos, a bridge between the heavens and the earthly realm. The nakshatras weren't just used to track time. They were integral to the practice of Jyotisha, or Vedic astrology. This ancient system wasn't just about predicting the future. It was about understanding one's place in the cosmic order. The birth chart of an individual was mapped against the positions of the moon, stars, and planets at the exact moment of birth. It was believed that these cosmic markers determined not only the personality and destiny of an individual, but also their spiritual path. To the ancient Indians, the stars were much more than distant points of light. They were cosmic guides, shaping the spiritual journey of each person. Historians still argue about the scientific validity of Jyotisha. Was it purely a spiritual practice, or did it reflect genuine astronomical knowledge? Some scholars believe that Vedic astrology was deeply rooted in observational astronomy, relying on precise measurements of planetary movements and lunar cycles. Others suggest that its main purpose was spiritual alignment, helping individuals understand their karma and navigate the cycles of life. Regardless of its origins, Jyotisha remains a testament to the ancient Indian belief that time and spirituality are inseparably linked. What's even more fascinating is how these cosmic principles were reflected in daily life. Temples in ancient India were often aligned with the rising and setting of specific stars, particularly the nakshatras. The architecture of these temples wasn't just about grandeur, it was about cosmic alignment. Certain temples were designed so that during key celestial events, sunlight would pass through perfectly aligned windows, illuminating a specific idol or altar. These moments were seen as divine alignments, when the earthly realm and the cosmic order were in perfect harmony. One of the most incredible examples of this is found in the Konark Sun Temple in Odisha. This temple is designed to resemble a giant chariot, with 12 pairs of wheels representing the 12 months of the year, and 7 horses symbolizing the days of the week. It's positioned to align with the sunrise during the solstice, casting light through its intricately designed architecture to mark the changing of the seasons. It wasn't just a temple. It was a cosmic calendar, a physical manifestation of the ancient Indian understanding of time. Historians still debate the engineering marvel of these temples. How did the ancient Indians achieve such precision without modern tools? Some suggest that their deep understanding of astronomy and mathematics enabled them to build structures with almost perfect alignment to celestial events. Others believe it was a combination of spiritual insight and mathematical genius. Whatever the case, these structures stand as a testament to how deeply time was woven into the architecture and spirituality of Indian life. So, as you reflect on these marvels of ancient India, it's clear that timekeeping wasn't just about tracking the passage of hours, it was about living in alignment with the universe, understanding the cosmic rhythms that shaped life on Earth. Through nakshatras, temple architecture, and Jyotisha, the ancient Indians didn't just observe time, they lived it, connected deeply to the stars and the seasons, knowing that every moment was part of a larger cosmic dance. The night grows deeper, stretching across time, as if the very stars themselves hold memories of ancient days. The sky above, dotted with shimmering lights, is much the same as the one the ancient Indians gazed upon when they charted their calendars, mapped their temples, and aligned their lives with the cosmic order. For them, time wasn't simply a way to measure moments. It was a cosmic language, a bridge between the heavens and earth, connecting the material world with the divine. Every star, every moon phase, every rising sun was part of an intricate tapestry that spoke of cycles, rebirth, and the eternal dance of the universe. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue to bring these ancient stories back to life, sharing the hidden marvels of history with you. And as always, share your location and local time in the comments. It's a beautiful reminder of how these stories travel across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's return to the architecture of ancient India for a moment. The temples weren't just places of worship. They were cosmic clocks, intricately designed to capture celestial movements. The alignment of these structures with planetary cycles, lunar phases, and solar movements was not just impressive, it was a testament to the deep astronomical understanding of the builders. Some temples were designed so that the sunlight would pass through narrow stone corridors, illuminating the main altar only during specific times of the year, like the solstice or equinox. These architectural marvels weren't just a nod to the cosmos, they were reflections of how the ancient Indians saw time as something divine and eternally cyclical. Historians still debate the true purpose of these alignments. Were they purely spiritual symbols, a way to honor the gods by aligning with the cosmic order? Or were they astronomical observatories, used to track time with incredible precision? Some scholars argue that these temples were used as astronomical instruments, allowing priests and astronomers to measure the movements of stars and planets. Others suggest that the alignments were purely purely symbolic, reflecting the harmony between the cosmic order and the earthly plane. The truth is likely a beautiful mixture of both, an elegant blend of spiritual devotion and scientific curiosity. One prime example of this is the Brihadiswarar temple in Tamil Nadu, built during the Chola dynasty. This temple is a masterpiece of both architecture and astronomy. It was designed with such precision that during specific times of the year, sunlight perfectly illuminates the main deity in the sanctum, marking key moments in the solar calendar. The sheer engineering brilliance of this is staggering when you consider that it was constructed over 1,000 years ago, without the use of modern technology or satellite-based calculations. This wasn't just a temple. It was a living cosmic calendar, a place where the divine and the celestial met in perfect harmony. But it wasn't just the grand temples that reflected this understanding of time. Even village shrines and agricultural practices were aligned with the lunar cycle. The moon, with its phases of waxing and waning, dictated the rhythm of planting, harvesting, and celebration. Crops were sown during certain phases of the moon, rituals were performed during the new moon or full moon, and festivals were celebrated in alignment with celestial events. This wasn't just a matter of tradition. It was believed that the cosmic forces had a direct impact on the success or failure of these activities. Historians still argue about how much of this lunar alignment was based on scientific observation and how much was spiritual belief. Some suggest that the agricultural calendar was purely practical, designed to maximize yields and harvest cycles. Others insist that it was more deeply tied to spiritual practices, where the phases of the moon were seen as divine markers, guiding not just earthly activities, but spiritual alignment as well. Regardless, the lunar calendar was an essential part of daily life, reflecting the ancient Indian belief that time was not something separate from nature. It was woven into the very essence of it. Even more impressive was their understanding of eclipses. In a time when many cultures viewed solar and lunar eclipses with fear and superstition, the ancient Indians had already mapped out their predictability. Using intricate mathematical calculations and astronomical observations, Indian astronomers could predict eclipses with remarkable accuracy. This was recorded in ancient texts like the Surya Siddhanta, which outlined the mathematical principles for tracking celestial movements. For the ancient Indians, eclipses weren't just omens. They were part of the natural cycle of time, expressions of cosmic rhythm that could be understood and even anticipated. Historians still debate the origins of this astronomical knowledge. Did the ancient Indians develop these calculations independently, or were they influenced by Babylonian and Greek astronomy? Some scholars argue that the mathematical models used in India were far more sophisticated than those of their contemporaries, while others believe there may have been cultural exchanges that influenced their understanding. Regardless of the origins, the fact remains that ancient Indian astronomers were mapping eclipses and calculating planetary movements long before much of the Western world had grasped the concept of celestial cycles. The ancient Indians didn't just stop at tracking time. They connected it with the divine. Eclipses were considered moments of great spiritual significance. Rituals were performed to cleanse the spirit and protect against negative energies, unlike some cultures that saw eclipses as purely ominous. The ancient Indians viewed them as moments of transition, a time when the cosmic order was momentarily disrupted, only to be restored again. This belief reflected their understanding that time was cyclical, that even moments of darkness were just part of the eternal flow. So, as you imagine the vast Indian sky, stretching above ancient temples and bustling markets, think about how every sunrise, every full moon, and every eclipse wasn't just a marker of time. It was a spiritual event, a reminder that human life was deeply connected to the cosmos. In the ancient Indian world, time was a sacred rhythm, a cosmic heartbeat that pulsed through every temple, Every village and every star-filled night, as the night settles even deeper and the rhythmic hum of the universe seems to pulse softly around you, it becomes clearer just how profoundly the ancient Indians saw time as an integral part of the cosmic order. For them, the concept of time wasn't just an abstract idea or a practical tool. It was a guiding force, shaping not only their spiritual lives, but also their social structures and cultural practices. They viewed the passage of time as part of a greater cycle, a rhythm that echoed the movement of stars, the phases of the moon, and the seasonal changes on Earth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue bringing these ancient stories to life. And, as always, leave your location and local time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see how far these ancient tales reach. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. One of the most intriguing aspects of ancient Indian timekeeping was how it shaped their philosophical worldview. Time was not just a linear sequence of events. It was a cyclic phenomenon where creation, destruction, and rebirth were all part of a cosmic loop. This concept was profoundly reflected in their understanding of cosmic cycles and the belief that time itself was repeating and eternal. The Kali Yuga, which is considered the current age, was seen as a phase of moral decline and spiritual struggle. Yet, even this age would eventually give way to a new dawn, a rebirth into the Satya Yuga, the age of truth and spiritual purity. Historians still debate whether the ancient Indians truly believed in the literal succession of these ages, or if they viewed them more symbolically, representing philosophical truths about human progress and decline. Some scholars argue that the Yuga system was a way to moralize history, showing that despite periods of darkness, humanity would inevitably return to spiritual enlightenment. Others suggest that these cycles were grounded in astronomical observations, reflecting the precession of the equinoxes or other long-term cosmic patterns. Either way, the cyclic view of time shaped how ancient Indians understood not just their past, but their future as well. This cyclic concept also impacted ritual practices. One of the most striking examples is the Maha Kumbh Mela, a massive spiritual gathering held every 12 years at the confluence of the Ganges, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati rivers. The timing of the Kumbh Mela is determined by the planetary alignment of Jupiter, Sun, and Moon, a celestial event considered highly auspicious. This isn't just a random festival. It's a deliberate alignment of human celebration with cosmic events. The belief is that bathing at this confluence during the Mela can cleanse one of sins, aligning the individual soul with the universal cycle. Historians still argue whether the Kumbh Mela's origins were purely astrological or more deeply rooted in spiritual tradition. Some believe that the festival began as a seasonal celebration, later imbued with cosmic significance, as the astrological concepts became more integrated into religious practices. Others suggest that the alignment of planets has always been central, symbolizing how cosmic forces influence human spirituality. Regardless of its origins, the Kumbh Mela remains one of the most enduring symbols of how time, cosmic cycles, and human rituals are deeply intertwined. In a more everyday context, the ancient Indians were meticulous in how they divided the day. The concept of muhurta was central to their timekeeping, a period of about 48 minutes that marked specific segments of the day. Each muhurta had its own spiritual significance and was deemed suitable for particular activities. For example, the Brahma Muhurta, occurring approximately 96 minutes before sunrise, was considered the most auspicious time for meditation and spiritual practices. It was believed that during this period, the mind was at its calmest, and the cosmic energy was most conducive to self-realization. Historians still debate whether the concept of muhurta was purely spiritual or had a practical origin. Some argue that it was rooted in the natural rhythms of the body, where early morning is naturally more peaceful and focused. Others believe it was a deliberate attempt to synchronize human life with the planetary movements, especially those of the sun and moon. Either way, the concept of muhurta shows how the ancient Indians didn't just track time. They lived it with intentionality, allowing the cosmic cycles to guide their daily routines. The idea that time itself is sacred extended to how they viewed human existence. Life was seen as a series of stages, each with its own purpose and spiritual goal. These ashramas, brahmacharya, student life; grihastha, householder life; vanaprastha, hermit stage; and sannyasa, renunciation, were not just social constructs, but reflections of cosmic principles. Just as the sun rises, reaches its zenith, sets, and gives way to night, human life too was seen as cyclical, with each stage naturally flowing into the next. Historians still debate the practicality of this system in ancient times. Was it genuinely followed? Or was it more of an ideal than a reality? Some argue that the ashrama system was more of a philosophical guide than a strict social structure. Others suggest that it genuinely influenced how people structured their lives, guiding social roles and personal development. Regardless of how rigorously it was practiced, the concept of these life stages highlights how deeply the cyclical nature of time influenced not just cosmic understanding, but also human behavior. As you drift into the quiet of the night, it's humbling to think of how the ancient Indians saw time as more than just a measurement. It was a sacred journey, a way to align oneself with the cosmos and live purposefully. Through festivals like Kumbh Mela, practices based on muhurta, and the philosophical framework of ashramas, they didn't just observe time, they danced with it, embracing every phase as a part of the universal cycle. To them, time wasn't just something that passed. It was alive, guiding, teaching, and reminding everyone of their place in the cosmic story. The stars glimmer above, distant yet constant, much like the ancient Indian understanding of time, a force that stretched across epochs, guided by the cosmic rhythms of the universe. For them, time wasn't just a practical measurement. It was spiritual, sacred, and woven into the very fabric of their lives. The way they tracked time and aligned it with cosmic events revealed not just a deep knowledge of astronomy, but a profound connection to the divine cycles that they believed governed all existence. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support lets me keep exploring these ancient mysteries and sharing them with you. And, as always, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's amazing to see how these stories of ancient time travel across the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, imagine for a moment the ashramas, the 4 stages of life outlined in Vedic tradition. These weren't just markers of age. They were phases of spiritual and social development designed to mirror the cosmic cycles themselves. Life, according to this tradition, was a journey through these 4 stages: brahmacharya, the student phase; grihastha, the householder phase; vanaprastha, the hermit phase; and finally, sannyasa, the renunciate phase. Each stage represented a different cycle of growth, much like the seasons or the phases of the moon, flowing seamlessly into the next. The first stage, brahmacharya, was a time for learning and discipline. It was during this phase that a person would study the Vedas, learn the sacred texts, and train under the guidance of a guru. This wasn't just about education. It was seen as a period of spiritual grounding, a time to connect with the divine order before entering the responsibilities of adult life. In many ways, this stage was synchronized with the idea of the rising sun, symbolizing new beginnings, learning, and potential. Historians still debate whether the brahmacharya phase was purely a spiritual practice, or if it was primarily about academic learning. Some argue that the Gurukul's ancient schools were focused heavily on spiritual development, while others suggest that students were also taught practical skills like mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy, regardless of its purpose. This stage represented the dawn of life, a time of preparation and learning under the watchful eye of the cosmic order. The next phase, Grihastha, marked the beginning of adult life, a time to marry, raise a family, and contribute to society. This was seen as the most active phase, much like the midday sun. Full of energy and productivity, responsibilities were vast, covering everything from earning a living to performing rituals and supporting the community. This phase wasn't just about material achievement. It was a spiritual duty. The Vedic scriptures teach that living as a householder is part of one's dharma moral duty, designed to maintain the cosmic balance through acts of service, charity, and religious observance. Historians still argue over how strictly the Grihastha phase was followed in practice. Some scholars suggest that it was more of an idealized concept, reflecting what society wished to achieve rather than what it actually practiced. Others believe that the duties and rituals of household life were deeply ingrained, with families meticulously following the Vedic guidelines for marriage, child-rearing, and community service. Either way, the Grihastha phase was seen as the pillar of society, supporting both the family and the community through responsible living and spiritual duty. The third stage, Vanaprastha, represented a turning inward. As one's children grew and took on responsibilities, it was considered time to withdraw from worldly concerns and begin a life of reflection and spiritual practice. This phase was symbolic of the waning light, much like the setting sun, where energy turns from the outer world to the inner spirit. Traditionally, this involved retreating to the forest, not necessarily in a literal sense, but as a metaphor for detachment and spiritual growth. The goal was to prepare the mind and soul for the next phase of existence. Historians still debate whether people actually withdrew to the forest, or if this was more symbolic of a simpler life, focused on meditation and prayer. Some suggest that only a select few embraced the literal retreat to the wilderness, while most simply reduced their material concerns and focused more on spiritual reflection. Yet the ideal remained, a life lived in alignment with the universe, moving steadily toward enlightenment. Finally, there was sannyasa, the last phase, where one renounced all worldly attachments. This stage symbolized complete detachment from the material world, akin to the stillness of night after the sun has set. In this phase, the individual sought to achieve moksha, spiritual liberation, by surrendering the ego and fully embracing the cosmic order. Wandering monks, known as sannyasis, would travel from village to village, living on alms, spreading spiritual teachings, and remaining entirely focused on spiritual awakening. Historians still argue about the practicality of sannyasa in ancient India. Was it widely practiced, or was it reserved for a spiritual elite? Some suggest that while the ideal was respected, only a handful truly followed the path to complete renunciation. Others believe that the concept was deeply integrated into Indian society, symbolizing a life cycle that not only fulfilled worldly duties, but also aspired to spiritual liberation. Together, these four stages were seen as a reflection of cosmic order, mirroring the cycles of the sun, the phases of the moon, and the changing seasons. Life was mapped out as a journey through these stages, each one representing a deeper alignment with the cosmos. The belief was that by living in harmony with these cycles, one could achieve not just worldly success, but spiritual liberation as well. For the ancient Indians, time wasn't just a ticking clock. It was a spiritual journey, an endless rhythm that connected them to the divine. As you sink back and reflect on these ancient practices, you begin to see how the ancient Indians lived with an almost cosmic awareness, weaving the cycles of the universe into their lives, their rituals, and even their life stages. For them, time was a path to understanding their place in the universe, a way to align the earthly journey with the eternal flow of the cosmos. As the night drifts further into stillness, the stories of ancient Indian timekeeping seem to breathe quietly through the air, weaving images of celestial bodies dancing across the sky, temples aligned with the sunrise, and rituals guided by the phases of the moon. In ancient India, time wasn't just a measurement, it was a sacred rhythm, a bridge that connected the material world with the divine cosmos. Each moment was part of a grander cycle, reflecting the ebb and flow of life, death, and rebirth. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support lets me continue sharing these hidden gems of history with you. And, as always, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world these ancient stories resonate. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Now, as we move deeper into the cosmic understanding of time in ancient India, we come across one of the most profound aspects of their timekeeping, the Panchangam. The Panchangam is an astrological almanac, a detailed calendar that is still widely used in India today. Unlike the simple calendars we hang on our walls, the Panchangam is a living document, constantly updated to reflect the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It provides daily information about the Tithi lunar day, Nakshatra lunar mansion, Yoga auspicious alignments, Karana half-day period, and the Vara weekday. The Panchangam is not merely a tool for timekeeping. It is a guide for living in alignment with the cosmos. Farmers use it to plant crops, families consult it to schedule weddings, and spiritual practitioners follow its guidelines for fasting and rituals. The lunar cycles and planetary movements detailed in the Panchangam are believed to influence the energies of the day, affecting everything from harvest yields to personal well-being. Historians still debate the origins of the Panchangam. Some argue that it developed independently from ancient Vedic astronomy, while others suggest it may have been influenced by Babylonian or Greek timekeeping systems. What is certain is that its complex calculations are based on a deep understanding of celestial mechanics. Ancient Indian astronomers, through careful observation of the stars and planets, developed mathematical models that are still used in the Panchangam today. What makes the Panchangam particularly fascinating is its ability to predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. Eclipses, planetary transits, and even auspicious moments for spiritual practices are laid out in its pages long before they occur. The mathematical precision of these predictions is astonishing, given that the Panchangam is based on observations made thousands of years ago without the aid of modern telescopes or computers. And yet, it remains remarkably accurate, a testament to the astronomical knowledge of the ancient Indians. Historians still argue over how this precision was achieved. Some suggest that Indian astronomers like Aryabhata and Brahmagupta used sophisticated mathematical formulas to predict celestial events. Others believe that the calculations were based on observation alone, refined over centuries of watching the skies and tracking the movements of planets. Regardless of the method, the Panchangam serves as a living link to this ancient wisdom, a guide that connects the people of today to the cosmic rhythms of the universe. The Panchangam also plays a significant role in the celebration of festivals. Major events like Diwali, Holi, and Navaratri are not just randomly placed on the calendar. They are meticulously timed to align with the phases of the moon and the position of stars. This alignment isn't just symbolic, it's believed to enhance the spiritual power of the celebrations. Rituals performed during these moments are thought to be more potent, more connected to the cosmic energies that flow through the universe. Historians still debate the true purpose of this alignment. Was it purely spiritual, meant to synchronize human activities with divine cycles, or did it also have practical applications, like determining the best time to harvest crops or gather communities? Some argue that the alignment of festivals with celestial events was a way to unite communities and mark the changing of seasons. Others insist that it was about achieving spiritual alignment with the universe, ensuring that rituals were performed at the most auspicious moments. Even today, the Panchangam is consulted for major life events. Weddings, housewarmings, and business ventures are often planned according to its guidance. Families gather to read its predictions, and priests use it to time rituals with cosmic precision. It's a living reminder that the ancient Indian understanding of time wasn't just about the passing of moments. It was about living in harmony with the universe. But the influence of the Panchangam extends even further. It is used in Vedic astrology, known as Jyotisha, to create birth charts that map the positions of the planets and stars at the exact moment of one's birth. These charts are believed to reveal a person's destiny, highlighting strengths, challenges, and the karmic patterns that may unfold over their lifetime. For many, it's a roadmap of their spiritual journey, a reminder that their life is part of a much grander design, one that is written in the stars. Historians still debate the scientific validity of these astrological practices. Was it merely spiritual belief, or did the ancient Indians have a deeper understanding of cosmic influence? Some argue that Jyotisha was a sophisticated system of astronomical observation, while others suggest it was more of a philosophical framework designed to bring meaning and order to human life. Either way, the fact remains that for thousands of years, the Panchangam has served as a cosmic guide, mapping out not just the passage of time, but the interplay of fate and the stars. As you relax deeper into the night, you can almost imagine the ancient scholars sitting beneath a starlit sky, charting the movements of planets with nothing but their eyes and an understanding of the cosmic order. For them, time wasn't just something that moved forward. It was something that flowed with the universe, part of an eternal cosmic rhythm that connected the heavens and the earth. As the night stretches on, the quiet hum of existence seems to blur with the ancient rhythms of cosmic time. The way the ancient Indians mapped the universe, tracked the stars, and aligned their lives with the cosmic order was nothing short of breathtaking. For them, time wasn't just a ticking clock. It was alive, a sacred force that pulsed through every ritual, every festival, and every life decision. It was a dance with the cosmos, guided by the stars, and measured with a precision that still astounds scholars today. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue sharing these timeless stories with you. And, as always, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where these ancient tales find their way. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. One of the most astonishing aspects of ancient Indian timekeeping was their understanding of planetary cycles. The Surya Siddhanta, an ancient Sanskrit text on astronomy and mathematics, contains calculations that are remarkably precise, even by modern standards. This text outlines the length of the solar year, the movements of planets, and even the tilt of the Earth's axis with a degree of accuracy that left Western scholars in awe when they first discovered it. The solar year, according to the Surya Siddhanta, was calculated at 365, 255.63627 days, a value astonishingly close to the modern measurement of 365, 25636 3004 days. This accuracy, achieved thousands of years ago, shows that ancient Indian astronomers were not only observing the skies, but truly understanding them. Historians still debate how the authors of the Surya Siddhanta achieved such precise measurements without modern technology. Some suggest that the ancient Indians must have relied heavily on observation and record-keeping, while others believe that there may have been influences from Babylonian or Greek astronomers. Yet, the sheer precision and depth of the calculations suggest that the Surya Siddhanta was far more than a borrowed idea. It was a culmination of generations of astronomical study. But the Surya Siddhanta Siddhanta wasn't just about mapping the solar year, it also provided methods for predicting eclipses, something that many ancient civilizations struggled with. The text detailed how the Earth, sun, and moon interacted, using complex mathematical models to predict solar and lunar eclipses long before they happened. This ability to predict cosmic events was seen as both a scientific achievement and a spiritual tool. Eclipses were considered moments of great spiritual significance in ancient India, times when the veil between worlds was believed to thin, making it ideal for prayers, meditations, and rituals. Historians still argue over whether this understanding of eclipses was purely astronomical or if it had deep spiritual roots. Some believe the calculations were developed solely for practical purposes, to mark time and predict celestial events for agricultural planning. Others insist that the knowledge was deeply tied to spiritual beliefs, with eclipses seen as moments of cosmic realignment, when the natural order was temporarily disrupted and then restored, regardless of its original purpose. The ability to predict eclipses remains one of the great achievements of ancient Indian astronomy. The Surya Siddhanta also touched on concepts that were incredibly advanced for its time. Ideas like the sphericity of Earth and the gravitational pull of celestial bodies. Long before the Western world embraced the idea of a spherical Earth, Indian astronomers were making calculations based on that very concept. The text also hinted at the idea of gravity, suggesting that objects fall to Earth due to some force of attraction. While it wasn't fully understood in the modern sense, the mere mention of it was a remarkable leap for its time. Historians still debate how much of this was purely observational and how much was theoretical. Some scholars argue that the Surya Siddhanta must have drawn on older Vedic traditions, where cosmic principles were deeply tied to spiritual understanding. Others believe that Indian astronomers, through meticulous observation, independently arrived at these conclusions. Either way, the text remains a stunning example of how spiritual belief and scientific inquiry were woven together in ancient India. But the Surya Siddhanta was not alone in its grandeur. It was part of a larger collection of astronomical texts known as the Siddhantas. These texts served as manuals for observing celestial movements, calculating planetary orbits, and understanding eclipses. They were not just theoretical. They were practical guides that were used by temple astronomers and Vedic scholars to track time and mark sacred rituals. Many of these observations were performed using gnomon sticks, rudimentary tools that cast shadows to measure the sun's position. The simplicity of the instrument belied its effectiveness, allowing scholars to track the passage of time with impressive accuracy. Historians still debate how these gnomon measurements compared to the sundials used in other parts of the world. Some argue that Indian gnomons were incredibly precise, allowing for measurements that rivaled even Greek and Roman instruments. Others believe that the accuracy was more a result of long-term observation than technological sophistication. Whatever the case, it's clear that ancient Indian astronomers understood the movements of the heavens with stunning clarity. One of the most fascinating elements of ancient Indian timekeeping was its connection to temple rituals. Certain temple structures were designed to align with celestial events, like the equinox or the summer solstice. During these times, sunlight would pass through narrow slits or windows, illuminating specific idols or altars. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was a cosmic alignment, a synchronization of the heavenly cycles with the divine space of the temple. For the ancient Indians, this alignment was seen as a merging of heaven and earth, a moment when the material world and the cosmic order briefly touched. Historians still argue about the engineering precision of these temples. How did ancient builders achieve such perfect alignment without modern instruments? Some suggest that generational knowledge of celestial cycles allowed for such precise construction. Others believe it was a testament to the mathematical knowledge embedded in Vedic traditions. Whatever the method, these temples stand as a living testament to how deeply the cosmic order was woven into spiritual practice as you close your eyes and imagine the ancient skies, stretching endlessly above temple spires and quiet villages. You can almost feel the heartbeat of the universe, a rhythm that the ancient Indians understood so intimately. For them, time was not just a concept, it was divine, and to live in harmony with the stars was to walk in step with the universe itself. The night is deep and still, stretching out like a canvas upon which the ancient Indians painted their understanding of time, space, and cosmic order. To them, the universe wasn't just something that existed, it was something that breathed, moved, and pulsed with energy, a living testament to the cycles of existence. Time wasn't linear, it was a loop, a cycle of creation, destruction, and renewal that mirrored the very rhythm of the cosmos. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me keep uncovering these timeless mysteries and sharing them with you. And, as always, feel free to share your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far these ancient tales travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. One of the most fascinating concepts in ancient Indian timekeeping was their understanding of yugas, the vast cosmic ages that spanned thousands upon thousands of years. Unlike the Western concept of time, which is largely linear, the Indian perspective was profoundly cyclical. Time was seen as moving through four grand ages: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Each represented a phase of moral and spiritual development, with Satya Yuga symbolizing the age of truth and purity, and Kali Yuga, the age of darkness and decline, which is the age we are believed to be living in now. The astonishing part is how precisely these ages were measured. According to the ancient Indian texts, Satya Yuga lasted for 728,000 years, Treta Yuga for 296,000 years, Dvapara Yuga for 864,000 years, and Kali Yuga for 432,000 years. The four yugas together are known as a Mahayuga, or Great Age, totaling for 32 million years. 1,000 of these Mahayugas, they believed, made up a kalpa, which is one day in the life of Brahma, the creator god. At the end of a kalpa, it is said that the universe is dissolved and recreated, beginning the cycle anew. Historians still debate whether the yuga system was meant to be taken literally, or if it was a symbolic representation of cosmic cycles. Some argue that the staggering lengths of these ages represent a spiritual metaphor for the rise and fall of civilizations and the cycles of enlightenment and ignorance. Others believe that ancient Indian astronomers used these vast timescales to map cosmic events far beyond the reach of ordinary lifespans, perhaps as a way to understand the movement of stars and galaxies. The concept of yugas didn't just reflect cosmic time. It influenced daily life and spiritual practices in Satya Yuga. Life was said to be pure and harmonious, with people living in close connection to spiritual truth and the divine order. In Treta Yuga, righteousness began to decline, though virtue still held strong. By Dvapara Yuga, moral decay increased, and material desires grew stronger. Now, in Kali Yuga, the ancient texts describe a world of conflict, greed, and spiritual decline, a time when true understanding of the cosmos is harder to grasp, and spiritual clarity is more challenging to achieve. Historians still argue whether these descriptions are mythological or reflect real philosophical beliefs about the human condition. Some suggest that the Yuga system is a way to explain the inevitable decay of societies over time, while others believe it was a way to moralize history, illustrating the importance of spiritual practice in the face of moral decline. Whatever its origins, the idea of the Yuga cycle is a powerful reminder of the cyclical nature of existence. a concept that has influenced Indian philosophy for thousands of years, beyond just measuring the ages of the world. The ancient Indians also had a remarkable understanding of planetary movements and eclipses. They believed that the positions of planets and stars weren't just random, they were part of the cosmic order, influencing both the material world and the spiritual journey of individuals. The Surya Siddhanta, as we explored before, mapped out the paths of planets, predicted eclipses, and even calculated the Earth's circumference with stunning accuracy. The concept of Rahu and Ketu, two shadowy points in the sky that are considered celestial demons, was central to their understanding of eclipses. Unlike Western astronomy, which identifies lunar and solar eclipses as straightforward interactions between the Earth, Sun, and Moon, the ancient Indians believed these events were caused by Rahu and Ketu, which swallowed the Sun or Moon during these rare moments. While modern science has demystified this, it's a fascinating glimpse into how the cosmic order was both observed and mythologized. Historians still argue about the symbolic importance of Rahu and Ketu. Were they simply mythological explanations for celestial events, or did they serve a deeper spiritual purpose? Some suggest that the shadowy demons represent the darkness of ignorance, swallowing the light of knowledge temporarily during eclipses. Others believe they are symbolic of the cyclical nature of both light and shadow in the universe. Regardless, these mythological interpretations were deeply woven into Indian cosmology and spiritual practice. What is even more astonishing is how the ancient Indians tracked these events with such precision, using just observations of shadows, sunlight, and the movements of the stars. They mapped the cosmic dance of the planets with incredible accuracy. This wasn't just spiritual insight. It was practical, used for agriculture, rituals, and temple ceremonies. They understood that the universe moved according to precise laws, and by understanding these laws, they believed they could live in harmony with the cosmos. As you lie back and imagine those ancient skies, stretching above temple spires and villages, you begin to understand how deeply the ancient Indians intertwined their lives with the stars. For them, time was a living rhythm, a force that guided their lives, shaped their philosophies, and connected them to the universe itself. In every ritual, every calculation, and every prayer, there was the acknowledgement that time wasn't just something that passed. It was something that lived, eternally moving through cycles of creation, preservation, and rebirth. The night stretches deeper, and the silence feels almost timeless, echoing the ancient Indian understanding of time as a cosmic cycle. For them, time wasn't just a straight path that led from past to present and then to future. It was a circle, a rhythm that mirrored the cosmic dance of the universe. The stars, the sun, and the moon weren't just celestial bodies. They were keepers of time, marking the flow of existence through celestial alignment and cosmic events. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue unraveling these ancient mysteries and sharing them with you. And, as always, leave your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where these stories of ancient timekeeping resonate. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. In ancient Indian cosmology, the concept of time was deeply intertwined with their understanding of the universe's structure. According to their beliefs, the universe is cyclically created and destroyed, a process that repeats endlessly. This cosmic timeline is measured in terms of kalpas. A kalpa is a single day in the life of Brahma, the creator god, and it lasts for 32 billion years. After each kalpa, the universe is dissolved into a state of dormancy before being reborn again. This idea of cyclical time is unique and differs from the linear perception of history that we commonly hold today. Historians still argue whether the concept of kalpas was purely mythological or if it represented an attempt to grasp the scale of cosmic time. Some scholars suggest that the enormous numbers involved in these time cycles, millions and billions of years, were expressions of spiritual philosophy rather than actual measurements. Others believe that ancient Indian astronomers might have had some understanding of cosmic time, possibly inspired by the movements of celestial bodies. Regardless, the scale of time envisioned in Indian cosmology remains one of the most staggering concepts in the history of astronomy. During a kalpa, time is divided into 4 yugas: Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali. These ages are not just segments of cosmic time, they symbolize the moral and spiritual state of the universe. In the Satya Yuga, virtue and spiritual clarity are at their peak, while Kali Yuga, the age we are said to be living in now, is marked by confusion, greed, and spiritual darkness. The belief is that each yuga is shorter and more morally compromised than the one before it, leading to a gradual decline in spiritual purity until the cycle restarts. The ancient Indians didn't just theorize about these ages. They used them to time their rituals and spiritual practices. They believed that the energy of the universe was different in each yuga, affecting the effectiveness of prayers, rituals, and even meditation. Certain spiritual practices were considered more potent during specific yugas, reflecting their understanding of how cosmic energy flowed through time. Historians still argue whether the yuga system was intended to be taken literally, or if it was more of a philosophical framework for understanding the rise and fall of civilizations. Some scholars suggest that the descriptions of moral decline in Kali Yuga were reflections of societal challenges in ancient India, while others believe it was a prophetic vision of how human morality would decay over time. Either way, the idea of cyclical time deeply influenced how ancient Indians approached both spirituality and daily life. And it wasn't just the measurement of cosmic time that fascinated the ancient Indians. They were equally concerned with the tracking of earthly time. The Panchangam, as we explored earlier, was a comprehensive calendar system that mapped not only the days and months, but also the lunar cycles, planetary movements, and astrological predictions. It was used for everything from planting crops to performing rituals, and even for predicting auspicious times for marriages and business ventures. One of the most impressive features of the Panchangam was its ability to synchronize lunar months with solar years. Unlike the Gregorian calendar, which is purely solar-based, the Panchangam incorporated both lunar months and solar cycles. This synchronization was achieved through the addition of an extra month called Adhik Mas every 3 years. This kept the lunar and solar cycles in harmony, ensuring that seasonal festivals like Makar Sankranti and Diwali remained aligned with their traditional dates. Historians still debate how the ancient Indians managed to synchronize lunar and solar cycles so accurately. Some suggest that meticulous observation of the moon's phases and the sun's position allowed them to predict seasonal shifts with remarkable precision. Others argue that the synchronization was achieved through spiritual insight, guided by astrological predictions, as much as by astronomical observation. Either way, the Panchangam remains a testament to their profound understanding of celestial cycles. But timekeeping in ancient India wasn't just about tracking time. It was also about transcending it. Concepts like moksha, or spiritual liberation, were deeply tied to their understanding of cosmic cycles. To achieve moksha was to escape the cycle of birth and rebirth, to step outside of time itself and reunite with the divine essence. This belief was woven into their spiritual practices, influencing how they approached meditation, rituals, and even community living. Historians still argue about whether moksha was seen as a purely spiritual concept, or if it also represented a form of philosophical timekeeping, a way to measure spiritual progress against the backdrop of cosmic cycles. Some suggest that achieving moksha was like stepping out of the cosmic wheel, while others believe it symbolized the end of one's karmic cycle. Regardless of interpretation, the pursuit of spiritual liberation was a defining feature of ancient Indian life, reflecting their profound respect for the cosmic rhythm that governed the universe. As you relax and let these images of cosmic cycles and celestial timekeeping wash over you, it's almost as if you can feel the pulse of the universe itself, steady, unyielding, eternal. For the ancient Indians, time was more than just a method to track the days. It was a sacred journey, a path that connected the earthly plane with the divine, stretching across epochs and ages, always moving forward, always circling back. The night presses on, silent and vast, mirroring the ancient Indian belief that time itself is an unending cycle, stretching across eons and epochs, looping back upon itself in a rhythm as eternal as the stars. For the ancient Indians, the concept of time wasn't just about marking the passage of days or months. It was a cosmic dance, a reflection of the universe's pulse that flowed through temples, rituals, and the very structure of society. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support lets me continue exploring these ancient mysteries and sharing them with you. And, as always, feel free to leave your location and local time in the comments. It's always incredible to see how these timeless stories reach across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. One of the most remarkable ways the ancient Indians expressed their understanding of cosmic time was through the architecture of their temples. Unlike many Western cathedrals that were designed primarily for congregation, Indian temples were often built with a deep understanding of astronomy and planetary movements. These weren't just places of worship, they were cosmic maps, perfectly aligned with celestial events. The layout of the temples often mimicked the cosmic order, symbolizing the universe in miniature. This architectural philosophy is known as Vastu Shastra, an ancient doctrine that describes principles of design, layout, and geometry in harmony with cosmic laws. One of the finest examples of this cosmic alignment is the Konark Sun Temple in Odisha, built in the 13th century. This magnificent structure is designed to resemble a massive chariot pulled by 7 horses, symbolizing the journey of the sun god, Surya. The temple is oriented to face east, so that the first rays of the rising sun fall upon the main entrance. Not only that, but its architecture is also aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, marking the changing seasons with stunning precision. Historians still debate how the builders of Konark achieved such astronomical alignment. Some suggest that the Vedic understanding of celestial movements guided its construction, while others believe that it was achieved through generational knowledge passed down by temple architects. Regardless, the Konark Sun Temple stands as a testament to how deeply cosmic cycles were woven into Indian spiritual life. It wasn't just the Sun Temple either. The Brihadiswarar Temple in Tamil Nadu is another stunning example of cosmic alignment. Constructed during the Chola dynasty over 1,000 years ago, the temple's towering Gopuram gateway and main shrine are aligned with the cardinal directions. During the equinox, the sunlight travels through the corridors, illuminating the main deity with a perfect glow. This wasn't just architectural prowess, it was astronomical precision, reflecting the belief that the divine and the cosmic order were intertwined. Historians still argue whether these alignments were purely symbolic or if they served practical purposes. Some suggest that these structures acted as astronomical observatories, allowing priests to track the movements of the sun and moon. Others believe the purpose was purely spiritual, designed to align worship with the cosmic order. Perhaps it was a bit of both, a marriage of practical timekeeping and spiritual symbolism that brought heaven and earth together in the space of a temple. Even more fascinating is how temple rituals were synchronized with celestial events. Major festivals like Makar Sankranti, marking the winter solstice, were celebrated with sunrise prayers and offerings, timed to the precise moment the sun shifted in its orbit. These weren't arbitrary celebrations. They were moments when the cosmos aligned in a way that was believed to bring spiritual clarity and renewal. The temples themselves became timekeepers, marking the changing seasons and the cycles of the moon. Historians still debate whether the ritualistic timing was primarily spiritual or also agricultural. Some scholars argue that the solar festivals were rooted in farming cycles, marking the beginning and end of harvesting seasons. Others believe that the timing was purely astrological, intended to align the soul with the divine energies that flowed through the universe. Regardless of its origin, the synchronization of rituals with cosmic events is a testament to how profoundly the ancient Indians sought to harmonize with the universe. Beyond just temples, ancient Indian cities were often designed with cosmic alignment in mind. The city of Jaipur, for instance, was planned according to the principles of Vastu Shastra. Its streets are laid out in a grid that corresponds with planetary movements, and its main gates are aligned with the cardinal directions. Even the Palace of Winds, or Hawa Mahal, is designed to capture the winds during the changing of the seasons, reflecting the belief that architecture should flow with cosmic energy. Historians still debate whether the city planning of Jaipur and other Indian cities was purely astrological, or if it served practical purposes like defense and trade. Some suggest that aligning the city with planetary movements brought spiritual protection and prosperity, while others believe it was a more pragmatic approach to urban planning. Either way, the design of these cities shows how deeply cosmic principles were embedded in everyday life. Even today, the legacy of this cosmic understanding lives on. Many modern Indian homes are built with Vastu principles in mind, ensuring that the layout of rooms and the placement of doors and windows align with cosmic energy. Festivals are still celebrated in sync with lunar cycles and solar movements, and temples continue to mark the passage of time with astonishing astronomical precision. As you close your eyes and imagine the towering temples, the shadow clocks, and the lunar festivals, it's almost as if you can feel the heartbeat of the cosmos, a rhythm that the ancient Indians lived by. For them, time wasn't just measured, it was experienced. It flowed through their lives, their temples, and their cities, connecting them to the universe in a way that was as spiritual as it was scientific. To live by this rhythm was to live in harmony with the cosmos, where every moment was part of a grand cosmic cycle that pulsed with the breath of the universe. The night presses on, soft and still, echoing the ancient Indian understanding of time as an eternal rhythm, an unbroken cycle that connected the earthly plane with the cosmic order. For them, time wasn't merely counted, it was lived, embraced in harmony with the sun, the moon, and the stars. It wasn't just something that passed, it was something that breathed, that pulsed with the heartbeat of the universe itself. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue to share these timeless stories with you. And, as always, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far these ancient tales travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. As we draw closer to the heart of ancient Indian timekeeping, we arrive at the concept of Kala Chakra, the Wheel of Time. This idea is perhaps the most profound of all ancient Indian philosophies on time. The Kala Chakra represents time not as a straight line, but as a cycle, constantly turning and returning. It symbolizes the endless movement of the cosmos, where birth, death, and rebirth are not endpoints, but phases in an eternal dance. For the ancient Indians, the Kala Chakra was the cosmic clock that governed not only the universe, but the soul's journey through lifetimes. The Kala Chakra was visualized as a great wheel divided into Yugas ages, which we've explored before: Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali. These ages, in turn, formed part of a Mahayuga, and many Mahayugas formed a Kalpa, a single day in the life of Brahma, the creator. To the ancient Indians, this grand cosmic clock wasn't just philosophical, it was real, a part of their everyday understanding of existence. Historians still argue whether the Kala chakra was purely symbolic, or if it also served as a practical calendar. Some suggest that it was intended to illustrate spiritual progress and the cycles of karma, while others believe it was also used to calculate cosmic events and seasonal changes. Regardless of its purpose, the Wheel of Time remains a beautiful representation of the cyclical nature of existence, a reminder that endings are beginnings, and that time flows in eternal loops. This understanding of time as cyclical deeply influenced how the ancient Indians approached spirituality. They believed that every action, every thought, and every word contributed to one's karma, which would ripple forward through the cycles of rebirth. Time, in this sense, wasn't just a measure of life's moments. It was a teacher, an opportunity to correct past mistakes and evolve spiritually with each turn of the wheel. To live in harmony with the Kala chakra was to live with awareness, to understand that every action is part of a larger cosmic order. Historians still debate the extent to which this cyclical view of time influenced daily life. Was it truly embraced by all, or was it a concept reserved for spiritual scholars and philosophers? Some argue that the belief in reincarnation and karma was woven into the fabric of society, influencing everything from moral behavior to social roles. Others believe that the concept was more of a philosophical ideal, not always followed with strict adherence. Either way, the idea of the Kala chakra shaped how ancient Indians perceived life and death, success and failure, and the endless journey of the soul. Beyond its spiritual implications, the Kala chakra also influenced architecture and urban planning. Temples and cities were often designed in alignment with the Wheel of Time. The Chola dynasty, for instance, built temples that reflected the cosmic order, with layouts mirroring the cosmic mandalas and directions aligning with planetary movements. The very architecture of these temples symbolized the universe in miniature, with the central sanctum representing the cosmic axis, the center of the universe. One of the most remarkable examples of this cosmic alignment is found in the Chidambaram temple in Tamil Nadu. This temple is dedicated to Nataraja, the cosmic dancer, who symbolizes the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. The temple itself is constructed to represent time and space, with its pillars symbolizing the 12 zodiac signs and the 9 planetary influences. During certain times of the year, sunlight travels through perfectly aligned corridors, casting light on specific idols and altars. This wasn't just architectural brilliance. It was a cosmic calendar, built to reflect the cycles of time. Historians still debate whether this alignment was purely symbolic or if it served a practical purpose. Some suggest that temples like Chidambaram were built as astronomical observatories, used to track celestial events with stunning precision. Others believe the alignment was designed purely for spiritual symbolism, reflecting the divine connection between the material world and the cosmos. Either way, these structures stand as monuments to the ancient Indian understanding of time, not as a straight path, but as a cosmic wheel that turns endlessly. But it wasn't just temples. The idea of cyclical time influenced festivals as well. Celebrations like Makar Sankranti and Diwali weren't just annual events. They were moments when the Wheel of Time reached significant points in its cycle. Makar Sankranti, for example, marks the sun's transition into the zodiac sign of Capricorn, signaling the end of winter and the beginning of longer days. It's a celestial event that reflects the cosmic order, celebrated with prayers, rituals, and a collective acknowledgement of the sun's journey. Historians still argue whether these festivals were based solely on astronomical observations or if they carried deeper spiritual significance. Some suggest that the celebrations were agricultural markers, while others believe they were moments of cosmic alignment, opportunities to harmonize with the universe's cycles, regardless of their origin. These festivals remain a living testament to the ancient Indian philosophy of time, where every moment is part of a greater cycle, a cycle that is eternal and unending. As you lie back and let these stories drift through your mind, it's almost as if you can feel the gentle turn of the Kala Chakra, that great wheel of time that the ancient Indians believed carried us all through life, death, and rebirth. For them, time wasn't just a way to mark the passing of days. It was the very essence of existence, a sacred rhythm that pulsed with the breath of the universe. The stillness of the night feels timeless, stretching across the moments like the ancient Indian concept of eternal time, a ceaseless flow, looping back upon itself, stretching out like a cosmic river that never truly ends. For the ancient Indians, time wasn't just something to be measured. It was something to be experienced, to be understood as part of the universe's rhythm. Each moment was tied to the stars, each season to the movements of planets, and each life was a single breath in the grand cosmic cycle. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support helps me continue sharing these timeless stories with you. And, as always, feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far these ancient tales travel. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together as we reach the final moments of this journey through ancient Indian timekeeping. It's impossible not to marvel at how deeply intertwined their concept of time was with spirituality, architecture, and daily life. To them, time wasn't just about the ticking of seconds or the passing of hours. It was cosmic energy, something that flowed through temples, festivals, and even the structure of their cities. Time was a living force, tied to the movements of the stars and the cycles of the moon. One of the most beautiful representations of this understanding is found in the Jantar Mantar observatories. Built in the early 18th century by Maharaja Jai Singh II of Jaipur, these massive astronomical instruments were designed to measure time, track planetary movements, and predict celestial events with remarkable accuracy. The sundials, the largest of which is over 27 meters tall, could measure time down to a fraction of a second. These instruments weren't just scientific tools. They were expressions of cosmic harmony, massive stone structures aligned perfectly with the movements of the sun and stars. Historians still debate how Maharaja Jai Singh II managed to construct such precise instruments without modern technology. Some suggest that his deep understanding of Vedic astronomy combined with Persian and Greek influences allowed for these stunning constructions. Others believe that the architects and scholars who worked alongside him had generations of astronomical knowledge that made such precision possible. Either way, the Jantar Mantar remains a testament to the ancient Indian mastery of time, connecting the earthly plane with the cosmic order. But it wasn't just about tracking time. It was about understanding one's place within it. The Jantar Mantar observatories weren't only used to measure planetary alignments. They were also spiritual tools for aligning human action with cosmic will. Certain times of the year, marked by the positions of the stars and phases of the moon, were believed to be more auspicious for rituals, for planting, for even spiritual reflection. This wasn't just astronomy. It was a philosophy, a way of living in tune with the universe. Historians still argue whether this alignment of spiritual practice with astronomical observation was purely symbolic, or if it carried practical benefits as well. Some suggest that tracking celestial events allowed for better agricultural planning, more precise festival celebrations, and even political decision-making. Others believe that the alignment was primarily spiritual, a way to harmonize with the cosmic rhythm and balance karmic energies. Either way, the Jantar Mantar is a standing reminder that time, for the ancient Indians, was not just measured, It was understood, and even beyond the massive stone observatories, the concept of time filtered down to the everyday life of ordinary people. Farmers consulted the Panchangam before planting their crops. Priests measured the phases of the moon before performing rituals, and families chose auspicious dates for marriages and celebrations based on planetary alignments. Time was not just a series of moments, it was sacred, a connection to the divine order that governed the universe. It's almost poetic how the ancient Indians didn't just live in time, they lived with it. The rising of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the passage of seasons. These weren't just markers of time. They were spiritual events, opportunities to align with the cosmos. The Vedic rituals, the temple ceremonies, and the seasonal festivals all mirrored the universe's cycles, pulling the material world into harmony with the divine. Historians still debate whether this spiritual alignment was symbolic or genuinely believed to influence fate. Some argue that these practices were ritualistic traditions passed down through generations, while others believe that ancient Indians truly believed they were moving with the cosmos, influencing their own karma through the alignment of their actions with cosmic time. Regardless of the interpretation, the deep connection to time and the universe is clear. As you drift further into the night, the stories of ancient Indian timekeeping begin to feel almost like whispers of the cosmos itself. Soft, eternal, stretching across eons, the stars continue their watch, much as they did when Indian astronomers mapped their paths with sundials and gnomon sticks, when temple priests aligned their rituals to the equinoxes, and when families consulted the Panchangam to mark the moments of their lives. To the ancient Indians, time wasn't just a measurement, it was divine rhythm, an eternal dance that carried them through life and death, through creation and dissolution, always cycling back, always moving forward. Their temples still stand, their observatories still mark the passage of the stars, and their philosophies of time still linger in the pages of ancient texts, reminding us that time is not something to be escaped. It is something to be embraced, something to be lived with awareness and wonder. The night settles deeper, softer, as if time itself is stretching out in long, unbroken waves. You feel the stillness around you, that gentle hum of existence that flows through every breath, every heartbeat. The stories of ancient Indian timekeeping linger in your mind, like whispers carried through the stars. You can almost imagine the temple bells chiming, the sundials casting shadows, and the soft glow of the moon marking the passage of moments in perfect alignment with the cosmic order. The ancient Indians didn't just live in time, they lived with it, moved with it, honored it. Their days weren't just numbered. They were measured against the stars, synchronized with the phases of the moon, and celebrated through grand festivals that mirrored the cycles of life and renewal. To them, every sunrise was more than light. It was a reminder of the cosmic rhythm that pulsed through everything. Every eclipse wasn't just a shadow. It was a moment of spiritual realignment. Time was not something to escape, but something to understand, to harmonize with. It was woven into their temples, etched into their calendars, and whispered in their prayers. For the ancient Indians, to live in step with the cosmos was to live in peace and harmony, to feel the breath of the universe move through every moment. As you drift into sleep, let that feeling of cosmic alignment wash over you. Imagine the slow turning of the Kala Chakra, the great wheel of time spinning quietly through eternity, carrying you gently forward, one peaceful breath at a time. The stars shine above, timeless and steady, whispering softly that time is not just passing, it is flowing, endlessly, beautifully, just like your dreams.